All right, we're gonna cut that one abruptly since I don't have it coming to the end because I'm just testing it for the first time. So my wife was nice enough to make that intro for me, and it's got my Cybertruck in it, just the way I wrapped it. So I thought that was really sweet, and appreciate all of her hard work. I hope everybody's doing well this afternoon. It's been an interesting day today. Lots of stuff going on. Economic stuff going on, Tesla stuff going on. I got to say, Grock has been a heck of a large amount of fun for me right now. Elon is trolling, I think, mainstream media and probably Google's Gemini a little bit, or is it Facebook's Gemini? I don't know. I don't remember all the AIs anymore. I've played with so many of them, but just they had their Black George Washington and the multicultural for founding fathers, just like weird rewritings of history that just don't need to be there. We can live on our merit in the past and the current and the future. But it's just weird stuff. But he made it to where if you use Grok and you type in things like who's our president, who's the current president, or like who's the first president, you're likely to get or let me see. I did it wrong. One sec. Draw an image of the first president. And so kind of like all roads lead to Trump. So they're having a lot of fun over in the Grok land. We'll let this thing generate here and see if it comes up. Doop, 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 doop. We're coming. We're coming. What's it going to do? PayPal strong today. Yeah, so there's the first president of the United States, guys. So I think Elon, in typical Elon fashion, is just giving the middle finger to mainstream media and the woke left, that he knows just based on all of the recent attacks. So if you don't like that, well, sorry, but yeah, so that's tied in with Grok. Grok is just amazing. It's fun to play with. It's better than GPT in a number of ways, but then it's also not as good in others. That's going to happen for a while, but you got to remember that Elon said too that Grok 3.0 will be the best, most powerful AI engine out there. So that's going to be crazy. But today in markets, let's get into it. So somebody said Jesse calls for SoFis are looking good. Ah, cool, man. I hope you guys are doing good on SoFi. I didn't like the calls for them because they didn't have that at least 3x multiplier that I was looking for. So the risk to reward I just didn't think was good enough. But my PayPal calls, they were up 1.58% today. My Hood calls up 1.3% today. Looks like Palantir had a great day, up 2% on the day. So it was a mixed bag of nuts. The Nasdaq closed just barely positive, S&P up 0.38%, and then it looks like the Russell down 0.52. So a little bit of chop. I think part of that. Let's just look here. So if you look, Jerome Blockland posted this. He said for the first time in 40 months or 3.3 years, and let me just zoom this in here. Yeah, he said for the first time in 3.3 years, U.S. headline inflation has come in below 3% at 2.9%. 40 months is a long amount of time. So we're like not 3.5 years, 3 1/3 years. That's a decent amount of time for that record. And if you just look at core inflation or even headline inflation, this isn't crazy compared to what we've dealt with in the past. So I think it's definitely in line with what we've talked about before, which is the Fed lowering rates in September on the 18th. I think that's a guaranteed. I think that's going to happen. And it looks like the odds of that happening right now, it says, are 63.5% for one cut, but only 36.5% for two. That's kind of what I've been calling for a while. So I think that's just really lining up the way that we thought it was going to line up, and that's great. Again, just looking at a heat map real quick. Let's get in here and look at that. So you can see NVIDIA did well today. You can see Microsoft. Google didn't do so good. Google's got their antitrust lawsuit from monopolizing search. This is just such a stupid time for the government to be going after them. They hold what appears to be an obvious bias towards helping the campaign for the person that Kamala and Biden are in office, and Kamala is running for the president of the United States. And even just from my own YouTube anecdotal research that I posted online on X, there's a bias towards Kamala. Probably just based on ad revenue. I don't know if it's anything malicious, but there's something there. And so it's weird that the Department of Justice is going after a company that was leading in search, but now there's all these chat bots that will eventually probably just destroy Google search. And so the company's already hurting, and now we're going to go after them for monopolizing the industry. It's just some weird stuff that doesn't make a lot of sense. politically, governmentally, it just doesn't make any sense. But today you can see, so Google took a hit, Tesla took a hit, down 3.1%. I don't know, Tesla had such a great day yesterday, up like 5%. And I think it could just be some of that, just some chop and ebb and flow. I'm not reading too much into it today. I can tell you that much at least. Now let's look at crypto. How did crypto perform today? Down a lot, right? Like Bitcoin down 2.57. Actually, the altcoins have bled so much, they just don't seem to bleed as much now. At least the main ones like the Ethereum and the Solanas, right? They're just kind of hanging out. Even XRP down 1.4%. So they don't have a lot to lose. So you can see that we're really nearing the bottom in the crypto markets when you see stuff like this, like when the Bitcoin miners don't drop as hard, when the lead altcoins, like the top 10, let's say, don't drop as hard. You're seeing a big shift. You're seeing that the market is going to become more resilient. And that's my experience with it in the 7+ years that I've done this. All right, let me look here too. I'm going to get caught up in chat real quick. Hit the like button. I agree with that, Albert. Disease Kodak, Tesla closed above 200, thankfully. That is probably a good sign. Dustin P11, hey Jesse, thanks for all your work these last couple of weeks. We appreciate it. Click the like button. Yeah, thanks, dude. Johnny Salgado, Jesse calls for SoFi are looking good. I already read that one. Okay, Disease Kodak, PayPal strong day. Hood started real strong, ended a little weaker, still green. I think PayPal and Hood and maybe even SoFi here, and it looks like Palantir are going to do well. I'm not worried about them, honestly. And again, even if I look over here, the bounce we're seeing, and this is just the midline. That's what we call it. Kind of like you can see the way we broke down, right? Like there's a little midline here where it's like the big wick under, but then this is kind of acting like support going up the line too. So this is good. This just shows that the market is resilient. Even if we didn't scream higher today, we're not going lower. I still think the market is looking up. And I think we could see other elements of the market, especially things like Tesla, with 10-10 coming up, outperforming in the near future. Plus, we have rate cuts for them too on September 18th. So there's some good things aligning for the auto sector, for the real estate sector, for Tesla specifically. Am I still bullish on TMF? I probably am. If I make money in other sectors, I'm probably going to buy that. I might actually just buy TLT to be a little safer, not to have the multiplier behind it. But I do think it's a pretty safe investment right now. And we'll look at that in a little bit here. But I think the 20-year bond is probably a pretty decent safe investment. Need says, yo, Jesse, what up, dude? Concord, great BTC buying opportunity today with proxies. Yeah, I agree. That's why I did do some buying today too, guys. I bought, I posted it a little bit ago. It's in here somewhere, but essentially I bought about $19,000 in BITX down to 5.5% on the day. And I think that's going to turn out really well. All right. So again, the S&P looked all right. Let's look at the NASDAQ real quick. We'll just dial down the line, look at some commodities. I need to move this over. But again, you can just see that we've had a really good launch off the 200 moving average on the daily time frame. This is not a weak looking chart to me in any way. Now, if it rolled over here and created a shoulder, a head, and then another shoulder, it would be problematic. So we want to look for continuation. But like today, for instance, if you look here, we wicked down pretty hard to the 100 moving average, but then we bounced up, and now we're sitting on peak volumes. If we make a push like up to the 19,650 range, then it becomes a little more weird. It's not a really clean looking head and shoulder, because if you look at the shoulder, it's not that high. So if we got all the way up here, that would be a significantly broader shoulder over a short period of time. So that's what I'm looking to have happen. Again, if that doesn't happen, though, then we could get weird stuff here. Like if I do this, let me just go back here. We could get stuff where, kind of like what I was preaching with Starbucks a long time ago, where the market has been going up like this, right? We've got the support, but it looks kind of like a head and shoulders. And then it rolls over. And if we look here, we do have, at least on the weekly time frame, we have this like right up here. We have like a little bearish divergence. It's not a huge amount, actually. It's a small amount, which is good. It gives us hope. So really what happens in the days ahead is going to be incredibly important. If we can continue to climb like the way that we did in the S&P here, then this is going to turn into a bullish pattern. I would like to see the S&P maybe break 5,500 to give me confidence that's going to happen. And then that same kind of pattern again it's not quite in the Russell, because that one's been beat up for so long. So this doesn't really look like much of a shoulder here. Crazy head. Haven't even went anywhere yet. This just doesn't look like a good example of a head and shoulder. It looks like something that wants to break out, but is getting suppressed by just, the broader macro. So I still think that I still think the Russell is heading to 2,900 within this next like 6 months to a year. I still think that's happening. All right, let's go to the dollar. So today's an interesting day. So the dollar ended up flat on the day. Again, it hasn't rolled over yet. This is kind of what should be a support zone. So nothing too crazy going on with the dollar. Really flat. So and we should look at CPI. That's what I should have started with. Probably we'll look at that in a second. So you can see where the dollar versus the Chinese yuan is starting to break down. That's interesting. That's something we should be noting because I actually think it's going to break up higher. But then at the same time, the Japanese yen is, we're seeing the dollar gain strength against it. So that's an interesting move. China, we probably need to look at some of that because the bond market is a little bit weird today too. And again, we did look at CPI briefly, but I just want to show you guys across a few of these. So just United States core inflation rate. And let me zoom in just a hair. So if you look here, again, this is just not a bad number. This is 3.2. This is just the core. But this is not a bad number. So we were expecting, consensus was 3.2, forecast was 3.3. So technically a little bit under. I think we were month over month, we were up 0.2%. So it's not an acceleration. It's like a deceleration that we're seeing in the inflation numbers. And then, again, if we look at the inflation rate, not core, but the inflation rate, that was beautiful. For the first time in ages, that's where we got that 40-month, coming out with 2.9%. So it's just not a crazy level. If you go all the way back here to the 70s, even look in the 40s and 50s, does 2.9%, does that really scream anything crazy when we're looking through here? It looks almost normal when we look at the 90s, some of the most successful periods that we had in our history. And again, in the 80s, which also very successful, we had highs of 6.3 heading into 1990. So like, again, everybody's screaming inflation or was screaming inflation. It's definitely politically viable for your candidacy to talk about inflation, whether you're talking about how you're going to fix the problems, even if you're already in office, or whether or not you're talking about fixing what the other person's doing. It's not popular to say, I'm worried about deflation. You just can't say that. And I don't even know if most of the political candidates even understand it. But I do think that we're in a very normal range. And we need desperately to start cutting at least a rate, at least starting. We just need to soften. Even if this applies more pressure to China and other places in the meantime, that's fine. We want to be the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry. We want to be the strongest. I get all that. But we do need to start lowering rates. Not aggressively, because we don't want people to panic. We want them to feel good about what's going on, but we do need to lower them. And if you see here, so if I go to the 10-year, it looks like potentially, we hope, we're starting to see some moderation in the inflation rate. You can see where it was really bad, right? From November of 2020, the consumer price index, at least, just jumped immensely all the way to June of 2022. But now it's almost like it's starting to top and roll over, and I do think that's the path we're heading down for the CPI. There isn't a lot of other interesting stuff here. Well, let's look. Let's see how mortgages are doing, actually. This I did not look at today. So the rate dropped even more. That's great. So look at this. So we're at 6.5%, which is a level we haven't seen since about 13, 14 months ago, almost 15 months ago. So this is one of the lower rates. And again, I think we could drop under 6 in the next 30 to 60 days. We could be in the 5% range. That should help the mortgage industry. Now let's look here, finally. I thought that was going to happen this last spring, but finally, mortgage applications. Ooh, we got a new jump here. It looks like a new local high. We haven't seen mortgage applications this high since January of 2023. So that's good. So we're over a year and a half, the highest mortgage rate by far. And if you go back here, this is a 3-year, but let's look at the 5-year. So we've got the third highest level of mortgage applications since March 6th of 2020. That seems like a post. I should put that out there. That's a pretty big deal, right? Does anybody not see why that's a big deal? The mortgage industry is coming alive. We want to see that. Also, these rates dropping, this is going to help with everything. It's going to help with credit cards. It's going to help with auto loans. All this stuff is going to help. So I love that. I love that mortgage applications are hitting these all-time highs. And look over here. The mortgage market index as a whole has its highest reading. Let's see, 251.30. Yeah, 251.30. We haven't seen that level since January 20th, 2023. So again, over a year and a half. And this is great. So we're seeing the mortgage industry. And look at this. Look at how crushed the mortgage sector has been. Look at this. This is the chart I was trying to show you yesterday, by the way, when I was talking about real estate. Look at how crushed this is. We're at some of the lowest levels we've seen since the 90s. And now this is getting ready to fire off. This is a good sign, guys. Like this is exactly what I'm looking for. So if we can see continuation in the stock market, and then we can see mortgages continue to take off, and we can see inflation being nice and stable and then the 2% range, and we see the Fed bringing down rates, and we don't see unemployment getting crazy without some justifiability behind it, then I think times are getting better. And again, we do need to hit these things, though. If we don't hit these things, then maybe times aren't going to be good. So we need to monitor all of it closely. We need to try and remove our bias. We need to try and weigh everything as a whole. Here's what I do love, though. I do love that right now we're still in the fear range of 26, because if we look, I've got another chart. I need to probably pull that up. It's macromicro.me, this website that's got all this other analytical data. But I love that we saw a worse drop than what happened at the end of 2023 last year. And then at the same time, we're kind of hanging out here. Imagine what happens if we get up to extreme greed in the 70s and 80s. And I'll bring my other longer term chart up here tomorrow. I got to find it and like pull it up and start to use more of those from this website that I pay for. But we could go. I mean, again, what happens if we get to 90 in the fear and greed index because people get exuberant over the next 6 months plus? It could get very fun. It could get very fun. So, all right. Anyway, let's look over here. So we've got crypto fear and greed. Let's see if it's at 31 or if it dropped 30. So that makes sense. It's about where it should be. And again, a good sign, because if you look over here, if we go back a ways, let's go back like max. So where we are right now, over in this 30 range, we have not stayed here historically for a very long time, and we can go much, 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 much higher. If you look at 2020, we had greed levels that were near 100 for a very long period of time. And then so I would be looking forward to something like that again. All right, let me get caught up with chat real quick, and then we'll get back to economic data and then move on. Let me see. Amit, are you still in? Oh, yeah, we already talked about that. Sally Vang, hey, Jesse, can you take a look at IWM short-term move? Thanks. Yes, I will. And I kind of do that with the Russell, too. It's kind of the same thing. Albert, rate cut could get us to greed. Trump will get us. Yes, I think that's another good point. Again, people don't like to mix politics, I think, especially people that do what I do, right? Like I'm an influencer or whatever the fuck that means. And I think people don't like to mix politics with their influence unless that's literally their gig. Because if you're one of these political influencers, everybody's like, ooh, hey, look, I love these. Let me click on the thing for the latest thing that we support with our clan. But yeah, so I think that if you're people like me, you try to avoid politics, right? Like that's what I'm supposed to do. That's what everybody tells me I should be doing. But I have to look at the policies that are being invoked because they're so different between somebody who had a Marxist economic father who believes in socialism, who believes in equity, who believes in open borders, who believes like these are just substantive differences from what Trump is doing, right? So whoever gets in office, especially if they get the control, that's the biggest thing. I mean, if they get in office and like Kamala's the president, but everything else is red in the House and Senate, well, then she's a lame duck. She won't do shit without succumbing to what Republicans have. And the same kind of thing, vice versa, with Trump if he gets into office. So then it might not really matter as much, right? It's just whether or not there's a sweep of blue or red that's going to be really substantive and have a big difference. But you have to think about these things in your investment thesis because they will have impact come November, December. And so, again, it's just like I find it hard not to pay attention to this stuff, especially when I'm so drawn towards it. Now, I do want to say, I'm going to jump into PayPal real quick before we get to other stuff and before I get back to economic. I did want to point out that something I was talking about yesterday, I said, hey, what would be nice is that we start breaking up here and getting higher in PayPal. I'm going to raise this a little bit, though. I need to change the color. I don't think I saved it last time, so we're going to do that right now. So I'm going to pull it up a little bit higher because I don't want to cheat. I want to make this as I want to make this as good as possible for like what the actual breakout zone is. So I'm going to do it like right here, saying that we didn't meet it before, even though normally I would draw the line like right here. And maybe I'll still do that. I'll do something like I'll find the middle road. So we'll do it right here. But if we get above this, if we can get above this tomorrow and start holding some of these, or even better, get up above 68.79, get like in the 69 range, then and establish support, guys. That's the first time that we'll be above that since August of 2023. A year ago, and that in conjunction with all of the oscillators would just scream that this thing is going higher, and they're executing. The fundamentals look really great, so I love that kind of stuff. Anyway, I just wanted to segue into that real quick because I saw the PayPal eyes from Nayi. I don't know how to say that. Not going to say it the other way. All right, Mario Nawful. U.S. inflation falls to 2.9%. Again, this is just another way to look at it that I kind of liked that he had on here. So this is a chart from LSEG Data Stream. I don't know. I might have to check that one out. But I like the way they did this. They have PCI headline. They have CPI headline. They have the Fed policy rate, which is in red, right? Like what does the Fed set the rate to? Then they have a recession indicator showing too. So they showed a recession in March of 2020, which I think is legit. They got PCE, they got CPI, they got the jobless rate. What I find fascinating with this, and again, there's a little bit of dealing with scale, but you can see the jobless rate increasing because these are all percentages. You can see that increasing at a time where the Fed is incredibly restrictive, because if you look here in red, it's very, very restrictive. Unemployment's creeping up. But again, my thesis is because we've got tens of millions, I believe at least over 10 million immigrants that have crossed the border in 4 years, not even 4 years, 3.5 years. So if I'm remotely right, even if that's 8 million, if 20% of those take jobs from people that were employed before, you're going to see unemployment rise. So again, just like the lady who invented the SAM rule, I believe that's impactful. And so I think this is getting a little weird here and showing unemployment creeping higher than it really is creeping. And maybe it starts to stabilize. Maybe it keeps to go. I mean, our border's pretty open, so maybe it keeps going up. But I think it's justifiable. And I think if we dig into the data deeper, it'll clarify that. But again, if you see everything else here, you can see how the inflation impulse is just gone. Unemployment's creeping, and then you're incredibly restrictive with the fund rate. So you need to bring that down and try and get it more in alignment. Because if you look here, some of the best years, well, I mean, it doesn't have all of them, but if you look, the Fed fund rate was much lower than the inflation rate until it started creeping higher in the 2018 range. And then we realized that was a huge mistake, brought it way down, and then everything went crazy when we set it back to zero. So, but it's just another way to look at it. It's kind of fascinating. Now, this isn't U.S. economic data, but I do find this very, very, very interesting. This is China's data. So if you look here, it says from China Beige Book, I love the site. They say, despite a half a dozen rounds of Wall Street's bigger stimulus coming calls, basically saying that China's going to stimulate, it says, since COVID-0 ended, it was never, ever in the cards. Why were we so sure? It says CBB borrowing figures collapsed and continue to plummet all time. This person, English isn't their first language. Pin-up demand at all-time lows despite falling rates. So this is interesting. This is a Bloomberg report, and it says that Chinese credit growth has stagnated since the pandemic. And if we look here at this chart, you can see new yuan loans has fallen off a cliff. You can see their stocks have fallen off a cliff in gray. You can see their corporate bonds have fallen off a cliff in blue here. Let me just enlarge it. And you can see, too, that total social financing hasn't went up as much as people like Michael Howell have been calling for. I'm going to probably see if I can have some kind of chat or dialogue with him to get his take and view on this with some of the stuff that I pay for with this service. But the one thing that's remained strong is government bond issuance, because they got a lot of bills to pay. But this isn't good for China's economy, and they do need the stimulus. There's just a lot of weird stuff going on over there with their bond market and everything. And I'm going to be keeping a really close eye. That's what I wanted to show you guys. I'm going to be watching all this closely because I do have fears from China that could rock us. And we don't want any more like Japanese, carry trade type stuff hitting our accounts, do we? So we're going to keep a very close eye, and I'm going to probably ramp up my effort on keeping track of what's going on in China, because I'm much more worried about them right now than I am us. Now, Chinese bank loans for the first time fall for the first time in almost 20 years, probably nothing. So this is a big deal. China's loan gauge contracts for the first time since 2005 have fallen into negative territory. And you can see that even the impulses we have when it kind of takes off, like the additional stimulus stuff that they do, you can see how it just immediately falls afterwards the next quarter. And this time we're negative, and that's just not like that's probably not good. I think that they need to stimulate. Maybe this is why the markets really haven't been going anywhere yet either, because we still haven't had the Fed really open the floodgates. We've had a bunch of other central bankers all over the world do it, right? But our Fed hasn't really done it. And then China doesn't really appear to be providing the liquidity they've talked about providing, and that people have preached so much for so long. And I hadn't been doing that. I have been doing it more recently. And I do believe it's coming because I think it has to, just like with us. And so that's when the floodgates open. That's when we melt up. But you got to keep track of this stuff too, dude. You got to. So we're going to be watching that closely. Kobayashi letter. It says, breaking, U.S. crude oil production has officially hit a record 13.4 million barrels per day. I don't understand why there aren't more woke tears about this. I don't get it. Nobody seems to care on the left. But we are producing more oil now than any time before in history, and even during Donald Trump's presidency. You can see where the pandemic killed this, right? When we went negative on oil contracts. But we're actually at the highest level in history right now. And Trump wants to ramp up energy production more than we have. He wants to like open the Alaska pipeline, do all these different things, and another one that goes through the Midwest. So I just think, I don't know. I think there's so many narratives that are just wrong, and I wanted to call it out. We are producing tons of oil. This is helping our country right now, and this is under Biden. I mean, or whoever manages the country right now. I don't know if it's the interns on X, but whoever's doing this part, at least, I think they're in the right direction. So thank you, X or Joe Biden interns, for all that you guys have done, at least in regard to this topic, and then fuck you on everything else. All right, let's go. So Jerome Blockland had something else too that I thought was entertaining. And yeah, if you guys could hit the like button, it's greatly appreciated. I've lost a few people because I'm getting so political. So anything you guys do to help is very helpful, because I do think that both of these things matter, whether people like to hear it or not. And I listen to people that disagree with me on their YouTube channels. So I would think other people can do it too. But anyway, especially if I provide enough value, which I'm trying to do. He says, get ready for more Bank of England rate cuts. The UK headline inflation has been below the inflation numbers in France and Germany for 4 months. So UK is such a fucking mess too, across everything. But does this look like you need to worry about inflation right here for them either? They're actually a little bit worse off or better than we are. So I'm going to say it doesn't. Goldman Sachs. This is from them. It says now pricing in a 41% chance of a U.S. recession. This is up from just 29% back in April. Just kind of an observation that we need to keep an eye on, right? We want to see what happens. We want to see when people get worried. Now, to be clear, sometimes recession risk, as it goes up, you'll see like the bottom of the markets, and then it'll go down a lot, and then you'll see the top of the markets, and you can kind of see how like it was really low, the recession risk, in like September of 2022, even into 2023. And then the markets did well, right? So heading into January of 2023, the market did really good. And as it did good, the percentage chance of a recession went up higher. I think at the very least, because people are just more worried about it, and so they give it greater weight, especially if the market's outperformed. So it's just kind of funny how these things work. Seth Golden, fairly certain we just completed a follow-through day. And this is on August 13th, so this is yesterday, and it looked beautiful. And here you go. So is this no, it's not the IWM, it's the SPY, the SPX. So you can see here that was just, we've had an awesome bounce, and we don't want to see this roll over. So we'll keep an eye on it. And again, we got kind of beat up. I mean, we ended up closing higher today. So I'm going to agree with them that we did have a follow through, and we might still be breakout territory, but we need to see that this week. Cross-border capital, our latest GLI global liquidity indexes for end of July released today, a taster. World central banks still adding fuel. And he's right. I don't think it's China. I don't think it's the United States really pushing hard to add fuel, at least not if they're doing it, it's more covertly. But we are still seeing this from other countries around the world, so that part's good. And I think that's it for U.S. economic data. Let me get caught back up in chat here, and then we'll probably take a look at Bitcoin as well. All right, let me see. And I will pull up IWM in a second. We'll get a bunch of other stocks right after this. We'll pull up stocks before I start looking through Bitcoin. All Oh my God, I didn't realize that I often hang out with a real influencer. Oh God, you're so lucky. See this. Disease Kodak. Elon agreed to dance with Trump for a campaign video if Trump agrees to it. I love that. And I could see both of them doing it, and it would be the worst dance off in history of some of the most powerful men in the United States, which I think is great. I love that, actually. I think that's what we need more of, humor. Alexander Doe, hey Jesse, how could I get started learning technical analysis, supply, demand, etc.? You're a huge inspiration. I did make Trading View 101. I need to do more videos like that. And if you stick around for the latter part of my videos, or if you don't want to, be around for the whole time, near the end of them, I usually talk through different stocks. And so I'll talk about finance and I'll talk about technicals. And if you have questions, since you're in here and you're, paying your $2 a month or more, I'm happy to answer questions as you have them and try and get through them. I'm really trying to be a good service to you guys over the next year to 2 years, because I think it's going to be incredibly needed. Maybe after 2 or 3 years, I might pull back a lot because I'll be getting closer to 50, and I think I'll probably actually maybe start to retire a little bit. Who knows? Maybe I won't. But maybe I'll prioritize my time a little bit differently. But I still we'll be here, I think, no matter what. Just maybe not as great of a frequency, but I will over the next year or two. I promise you guys. You support me, I'll support you, and we'll try and learn and get as smart as we can together. China's fucked. I agree. Paul Hoger, hey man, you check on tickers today? We're gonna be going through some right now. Amit, this is your retirement, Jesse. You love this. You love us. I do. I don't hate it. It's rough sometimes though, man. Being on social media, especially on X with 61,000 followers, it's just and then just all the stuff that's happening in the world, it can be rough. So sometimes it's just like you need a break from it to recalibrate. Thoughts on Sofi here? I think it looks pretty good. We'll pull up that chart in a second. Alexander Doe, love it. I'm here to absorb as much as I can and learn from you. You're awesome. Can you leave these market recap as video replays in the members area? They're available for everybody, so you have it. I am going to try and make more members only videos though, with content that I believe is really timely and that we don't necessarily want a ton of people jumping into all at once, because I want to, again, my goal is to benefit the people that are members and support me, not just everybody in the world, or I should say at the expense of people who don't support normally. So yeah. All right. I'll start looking at stocks. Understand completely. Sending love back your way, brother. Thanks, man. Lovely content, says Rhett. Thank you, dude. Chris Federal, more tech layoffs. Cisco cutting 7%. Yeah, I actually had a really good site for that. Just give me 1 second. Layoffs, tech. Really good site. I think it's layoffs. Yeah, here we go. So this is actually my favorite site for that, and I think they have we've seen 130,482 people laid off across 398 tech companies. This is looking at this across the entire world. You can actually summarize this in different ways, but let's look here. So 130,000 this year. What did we have last year? 264. So I would actually argue that we're at a better pace because we're midway through August and we have 50% of the number that we had in 2023. Let's look at 2022. 2022 wasn't as bad. So I would actually argue that 2023 seems to have been the big drop, unless we see just an acceleration heading into the last part of this year. It looks like that was the big dump, and if anything, it looks like we're recovering from a tech layoff standpoint. These things are dynamic, though. They can change. And this is showing layoffs for the entire world. They do give you filters in here, so I'll probably do things where I look at only U.S. I'll play around with this and start looking at it. Oh, yeah, over here. So we can do things like this, and I can export the data. It's just really cool. It's a really cool way of doing stuff. I like this one a lot. But let me just see here. So we'll do United States. And that way we can just look at tech layoffs in the United States, not having to look for headlines and all this crap. Oh, how do I get rid of that little bar? How do I get rid of that? Oh, there we go. So yeah, looking in here. So we have, here's the big ones. In the last month, we have Dell, undisclosed number. We have Intel, 15,000 people. I mean, that one was pretty rough. We got Rad Power Bikes. I didn't know they were laying anybody off. It doesn't have the numbers there. We got Bungie, 220. This is going back into July. So you can see like some smaller companies. Really the biggest one. Oh, it looks like Cisco too. Oh, here we go. So San Francisco Bay Area, guys, is just California is so fucked. If you look here, look at all these layoffs. This is just across the United States, but Tally, Cisco, Branch, like everything is San Francisco Bay Area. Intel, 15,000, San Francisco Bay Area. Intuit, 1,800, San Francisco Bay Area. This is in July 10th. Upside Foods, let's see, it's just like a decent amount, again, of loss. Redbox, that's still a company. Just that's Chicago, I guess. So we got a little different. But San Francisco Bay Area, if you look here, it's just gets devastated. It's had a tough couple years in San Francisco. It's very apparent when you look at this kind of chart and data. All right, let me get back over to you guys. Let's look through the rest of these, okay? Now, gold. Is gold still doing good? Are people still using this as a hedge? Yes. Not so much today. I don't think today got a new high, did it? No. But this is still looking pretty strong. It does have some bearish divergence. We'll see if it ends up holding, but gold's still doing all right. And again, it's nothing super exciting. It's still just, what is it at? 20. I mean, I think it's like 24% or something since this old high. Yeah, 24%. So it's just like, and that's over 13 years. So people, again, if you compare Bitcoin to gold and you go back 3 years and you're like, but gold is outperforming Bitcoin for the last 3 years and you don't understand the concept of the 4-year cycle, you're kind of an idiot. You should, or uneducated, you should educate yourself. And I'm sorry, it's up 27% in 13 years. Wow. All right, Alexander Doe, you're right. It's all in the live section of your YouTube profile. Needs 55, trying to find other asymmetric bets. Wouldn't mind you checking on EOC. I hear that one all the time. Let's look here. So they made money recently, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. I don't know. I wouldn't be, I like asymmetric bets, but I like asymmetric bets for companies that are overextended. They've sold off hard. They've been kicked in the balls for no apparent reason. I don't know if the OC is that. And so, however the fuck you pronounce it, because their revenue last quarter was not even $1 million, and they lost $52 million. So that's how I feel about EOC. Oh, hey, thanks for the dollar, B850 ounce. Not sure what that means, but cool. I appreciate you very much. If dollar, euro, whatever currency, don't care. Thank you for being so kind. Now, again, they've got revenue growth that shows like year over year, it looks all right. But let's see, what are the estimates here? What? So they think they're going to make $48 million in revenue. That's what they're guiding for in Q3. So maybe that, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. They need to make money. They need to ramp. They've got an evaluation or evaluation of what, 390 million, enterprise of 492 million. But they need to make money. That's going to be the big thing. Like companies, when you're diluting shares and burning cash, you can keep doing that. And this is their commercial pipeline. So you can see how it's grown over the years, right? Like they're getting more stuff in front of them. But here's the big worry, right? This is the reason I wouldn't touch this stuff right now. It's because you have companies like Tesla, you've got investments like Bitcoin that have been really beat up. And it's like if you look out 2 years or 3 years on Tesla and Bitcoin, well, maybe Bitcoin, let's just say 4 or 5, you know that's going to recover and just be great, like at the peak of the next cycle in Bitcoin, right? Most likely you're going to be doing really good. Same with Tesla. I don't have a lot of fear that 5 years out, I'm not going to be doing really well with Tesla, right? And I've got contracts that are about two years out from today that I think I'm going to do really good on, about 22 months. I feel like there's a lot of risk there. This one has tons of risk. This company might never be a profitable company whatsoever. They might never really turn into anything. Now, is there a reward there? Sure, but the allocation I would put to something like this would maybe be 1% to 2% of my portfolio, because I would be putting the bulk of the money in things that are like guarantees, right? So that's my take when it comes to something like EOC, Energy Enterprises Inc. And let's see how it's done. I'll pull this one up real quick before I get to the rest of this stuff. I just want to, I'm gonna go down this rabbit hole just for a second. I'm just gonna look at it from a technical level. And again, so I think people get really excited about companies like this. I've known a bunch of them. And don't get me wrong, like, oh, hey, we dropped all the way down to here. The company lost 98% of its value from 2021. So in three and a half years, it lost 98% of the value of the company. So a lot of the extreme speculation is gone, but this company could do this for years. So I can't really do call options off of it. And if it does start doing well, could it gain billions? Could it go up? Could it get a lot higher? Yes, it totally could. But again, 1 to 2% of your portfolio. Be smart with it, because there's things like this. There's things like Fubo too, that where it's like people are like, they kind of like the stock, or they it's a value trap. Like they think they're going to make a ton of money on it. And it's like, oh, because if you look at this, look at how far it's fallen. It's like, yeah, it's fallen 99.999% from its initial debut. But does that mean it's actually going to go anywhere? I mean, it could just keep doing this for years. For years. It's been falling since it debuted in November of 2015. Anyway, so that's my thought on that. I just wouldn't get too excited about stuff like that. I think it could be a hole. Let's look at oil. So we had all this. Iran was still going to strike. I mean, wasn't it last Wednesday that Iran was going to strike Israel? It's so hard to keep up. Oh, hey, thank you guys. Wow, you guys are awesome. TMF, my man, the time to go in, heavy. I think you can do good on it. I think you could make 50 to 100%. I'm just using it as a hedge, though, so I will probably get into it. But again, it might just be TLT too. But I've shown that chart. I'll look at that a little bit later too. Shimoli, I do it. Keep the great streams going. I'll try, dude. Hopefully I didn't butcher your name, bro. Yeah. So again, oil, just a massive rejection off the 100 moving average, well underneath the 200 moving average, at least on the daily time frame. And if we look here, well, that reorged really weird when I switched to this other time frame. If you look over here, you can see that it's rejecting off the 200 weekly moving average, which I don't think is a good sign for oil. I think it's going to roll over, and we're going to see a drop down here to the 67 range. Wow, you guys are great. Why do you choose the specific Tesla 330 call? I actually made a video about that. You should look it up. I'll try and attach it to the end of this one too, so you can see it at the end. It might take me a minute to do it after the stream's done. But I've made a couple of Tesla videos. You should look up the most viewed video I have is 25,000 views. It's called Tesla four phases, something like that. You can look that up under my videos. That's a really good one that talks about like the Tesla cycle and where I think we're going to head based upon their like fundamentals and their productions and everything that they're doing and what the kind of returns were for the options and all that kind of stuff. And then I have another one too where I talk about these specific calls and how I chose them. And then I've got some more updated ones too that kind of go over some of that. So I would check those out. I think it's probably going to be helpful to you. But yeah, so if you look here, the oil hit the 200 and I think it's going to roll over, and I think we're going to test in the 60s again. This is good, right? Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it does not really matter if oil is going down. But let's say the world isn't falling apart, even though we are seeing some fracturing. We're seeing like lesser demand in some given areas. All kinds of things to monitor, right? That we've talked about. But right now, I'm not too concerned, and I actually think that this is fuel for more upside as we don't see inflation. Danny, what did you put in there? I can't read that. Alexander Doe, would the easiest way to get into the market for now is just auto invest in something like SPY until I can learn the stuff. That's not a bad idea. Honestly, though, man, like. Yeah, you could do that, but I would still put a percentage, even if you're in the learning phase. If this is money you can afford to lose, I think especially with a company like Tesla, I would put a percent towards it. Like if you have a decent portfolio, put 10% towards it, or start DCing. If you're just starting, let me know what your situation is, man. But if you're just starting, I would be betting on all the gambliest, sure things I could fucking do. Tesla would be where I put all my money. If you're young and you're not searching for yield, you are screwing yourself. When you get old and you have a massive portfolio, you start to really get conservative and you start to invest in things like bonds. I mean, not that they didn't fuck you either. With the worst route in a couple hundred years, you got really screwed there. So that wasn't a good safety mechanism. But definitely stuff like Bitcoin, Stuff like Tesla, stuff like Palantir, I think would be a great long-term hold. If you're young, just starting, bet the farm against really highly successful companies that haven't quite gotten to the peak of what they can do yet, or investments that can just keep going higher off of money printing. You should be betting more extreme. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. You can talk to one of them. Half of them are fucking idiots, but and they all like went to the same schools and learned all the same things. And they're like, "Hey, I got you 3% last year, even though inflation was 10. So you only lost like a small amount." They're just idiots, and because again, they're educated by like one source that everybody that preaches the same message, right? Like, I would rather have free thinkers that do a lot of research on their own than people that have read a bunch of books about economics and investing, and don't really know anything and haven't put any effort into it and haven't put a lot of money towards it and don't have a proven track record. Like, anyway, that's my 2 cents, man. So I mean, get out there and learn and make money, but don't be short-sighted and don't do a bunch of option shit. If you are new, please to God, be smart with options. I know so many people for a year and a half have been saying don't buy options and Bitcoin related investments or shitcoin type stuff. And people did it, and they all did it. And now this entire year it's been trading flat after the halving, and they've just been fucked. So don't do stupid shit like that. Start really small with options if you're going to do it. Just invest, buy and hold great companies and put money towards it and investments. Just do that. I wouldn't put into SPY because it doesn't even produce. Yeah, it's shit. Walter Bryan, totally agree. Here's the problem. The rate of money printing and just the rate of growth on the SPY and what could be additional inflation through money printing in the future, not necessarily through the purchase of goods and services. It'll get there. But that'll make it to where you're just not getting a good return. And it's like, learn everything you can about Tesla. Do me that favor. Learn everything you can about Bitcoin. And you'll do better, man. Just a friendly comment in Hebrew. Okay. All right, cool. That's different. George Vane gifted a membership. If somebody clicks on that, they'll get it. Thank you, George. Really appreciate it, man. All right, so let's look here. All right, Rocket Lab. All right, so a lot of stock requests. I'll go back to chat here in a second. I'm just going to keep rolling through this stuff so I can get through all of it. I'm looking at the Bond Volatility Index. I want to see how we did. Bond Volatility Index continuing to roll over. I've told you guys a bunch of times. I really like this because when I see it rolling over, it tells me the market is starting to stabilize. And we're not seeing too much of a rush into bonds. And that's probably a good thing for the stock market. And then again, we're still, oh my God, the VIX has fallen off a cliff. Just look at this. Just look at this. So where are we right now? So we'll be at the weekly. So on a weekly level, we closed just the strongest drop we've seen on a weekly level in like history. In like history. That's crazy. That's crazy. This screams to me that like the whole Japanese yen carry trade thing was just an anomaly that pulled the market down, and we're sitting down there. We're this big balloon. We're sitting underwater, but your arms are getting tired of holding it there, and by that I mean like the stock market and its want to go higher, just based on what I'm seeing in reductions in volatility in bonds and the stock market VIX. This is just the biggest drop I've ever seen in like history, maybe over such a short period of time on the VIX. I think this is the largest drop in history. If we close the month anywhere near here, this would be the most insane VIX that we've seen since it started in the 90s. So 35 years. Hey, thanks, Nike. I'm gonna pronounce it that way. Thank you very much for the 10. I appreciate it, man. Whatever currency that is. You said, Jesse, you're the man. Dude, I appreciate you. You guys are great. Yeah, so anyway, so the VIX is looking real good. I'm just going to update that real quick. I don't hate that look of that at all. Let's look at the 2-year and how it's handling itself. So again, it was up a little bit today. Hasn't quite rolled over, but I told you it was going to break down. We did that. I still think we're going to the 200. I would like it to be measured, though, so that the stock market can do okay. in its move. I don't want it to be like catastrophic. The 2-year 10 inversion is still very much uninverted, like I said it was going to do. I think we could chop around here and just hang out. I don't think this is the longest inversion in the history of the United States of America, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. As long as the economy's still doing all right-ish, I think we'll be okay. It could end up on inverting, but we'll see. I don't think it's going to. And again, that just kind of starts a recession clock. It doesn't have to actually mean it is one, but it means the likelihood is high. But the clock can go for like 6 months or even longer, maybe even 6 months, 9 months, even 12 months. And again, it might not happen at all. Phil, still a new video with your James and Marty party. That would be still need a video with you. Oh, I'd love to hang out with James and Marty party. And he's got that other dude on there too that's brilliant. I think I am intimidated by those guys because they're so good at what they do. I feel like a hack. I think I'm pretty good, but again, they're just next tier caliber and effort and what they put out. And it's very impressive. I'd like to do something like that in the future. Maybe I will. All right, here. So let's see what else we got. Hello, Jesse. Hey, Diego. Walter. Just curious, why are lots of people going for TLT trade? I think it's because of the rates changing, right? Like that's what makes sense to me. If you know the Fed's going to lower rates and you want to lock in some kind of contract where you're likely to make a bunch of money as it goes up in value, and you're locking in a certain rate, right? Like so that's how we get the gains on this. And again, it's done really well. If you look here, like I think we still have just on TLT. I think we have 23% before we really start to see some pressure. And so if I'm right on that, then TMF is like a 3x, and you're going to get some diminishing returns because of time decay, like options. But again, look at this. Look at how well this thing did over time. Going back to 2011, this was $70, and then it went up to a peak of it's 576. For the bond perspective, if you sold up here, you were brilliant. It went up to almost 600, and then it went all the way down to 38. This is what I'm talking about when I say the worst route in hundreds of years. Bonds were supposed to be safe, and a bunch of people got utterly fucked that are older. It's really sad. But I think the run to the upside could get us in the 150 range even, or something like that. So you could make a lot of money to the upside, like 100, maybe even 200%, as they start to lower rates a lot over the next few years, using this 20-year. I think the 100% is a real safe number. So if you got a hedge and you can double your money on it, and you put like $500,000 and you can turn it into $1 million while the market is melting down, well, that gives you a nice little safety net for buying some investments at the depths of that, right? So I think that's why you're seeing the trade for TLT and TMF start to pick up, just because it's a good hedge, and it's one of the reasons I did it, right? Because when the market plummeted, I had I think it was only 100,000 in that, but I had cash and I had 100 grand in TMF, and it went up like 10% or something in value, while a bunch of my investments dropped 30% or something in a week, and I was able to buy that dip. So when you got something that's up, 6 figures, up 10%, and then you got your favorite things you love that are down 30, it's like a no-brainer. I wish I would have had more money, and that's what I will be probably getting a little more cautious here in the future. I mean, as cautious as I am, but I will be adding to like hedge type stuff and cash over time as some of these do really well. And again, some of my trades today didn't do bad at all. I don't have that pulled up. Fuck, I got to start doing that more. But PayPal did really good. Hood did really good. So I've got investments that I feel like are really getting ready to take off and make me some money. And I think as that happens, I'll be able to hedge along the way too, while reducing some of the risk of owning options contracts. And again, I'm not going to be, I'll tell you this, guys, 6 months from now, I probably won't own options contracts outside of maybe like some Tesla. Hopefully, if Tesla has a moment where it gets a real good surge too, I'll probably exit a lot of the contracts and switch to stock. But my goal is to get out of options contracts in the next, start to really tether out of them over the next, I'd say starting within 3 or 4 months and probably ending within 9 to 12. I want to be out of options for everything, outside of maybe hedges around that time, just to give you the plan going forward. Because I want to hedge my risk. Kite, hey Jesse, DLO earning today. Did you? Oh yeah, no, I didn't. I didn't look at it. I should though. Let me do this. Sorry, I was thinking about doing the earnings call. I did not get a lot of sleep last night. And then it's just like less than 1% of my portfolio. So I just do not care personally that much because it's such a one-off. But let's look here. Post market, I've got 0% for these guys. So I'm not sure what's going on with the reporting. I'll put this. Oh, why did that go there? I'll put this. Give me 1 second. I've got to switch a few things around. So I'm going to take this and put this here in the corner. And then I'm going to take the middle screen share as soon as I get there. And then I'm going to put that back on my other stuff. What do I got? I got the 2-10-year up right now. Okay, so that's this one. All right, there we go. So we got DLO in the corner, and we got my 2-10-year over here. Or I'm sorry, TLT. So we'll watch this one, and let me do this. Oh, you know what? It did move a lot. Is it good or bad? Or no, it didn't. No, it's still 0%. So I'll just put it over here. It looks like it did drop. I don't know if that's the earnings part. Let me go to the 1 hour. It's done nothing. So it plummeted to 689 and then shot back up potentially. I don't know which direction. But now it's basically sitting where it was. Literally zero change on this one. So completely boring. Let me just do this. You can barely even see this weird wick here on this candle. I'll make it nice and big so we can see if there's any change on it. So nothing really going on with DLO. And I'll check that later. Wolf had a good quarter, up 11.5% in after hours. That's great. I wonder if it'll drag up the rest of the crypto market. Let me just see something real quick here. Let me see right over here my watch list. I gotta update these two. So let me do miners and then do my little graph here and then sort. I don't think this picks up after hours. No, I wish it did. And maybe there's a way to trick that and switch it to it. I'll have to check. But yeah, it's interesting to look here. If we go back, these miners, especially like over the last 3 months, look at this. Look at just that number for the returns on some of these. And let me do this. I haven't looked at this in a while. I just want to see this. I want to see what all this miner stuff looks like in comparison to each other. See who's outperformed and who hasn't. I just haven't looked at this in such a long time. I think it'll get all of them. Yeah, it will. Okay. So let's go back a year. So MicroStrategy beating, isn't that funny? Isn't it funny that MicroStrategy is beating every Bitcoin miner when these were doing better before? If you look here, like February, March or whatever, MicroStrategy was not doing as well. Like look at February, you had CleanSpark up 69%. MicroStrategy was up a lot less than that. And again, so it's just like, to see how strong it's maintained is pretty awesome. The real bet would have been to own MicroStrategy at the end of this last year and held that and then bought miners into this big dip. But hindsight's 2020 all the time, right? But yeah, it looks like Cypher's actually down. But some of these, like Bitcoin's up 107% in a year. MicroStrategy's up 257. Cypher's down 2%. Mara's only up 7%. Iron's up 32. Iron, Wolf... a few of these have done really good off the AI type trade where they have like processing video cards and all that kind of stuff for it. Dustin said DLO beat expectations. Expected was 0.1, but they had 0.15. Great. Market doesn't care though because it's a small cap. That's the problem right now. Flux, DLO, all these other small caps, the market just does not give two shits. But I love to hear that. I own some. They're options. They can go up a lot over the next, I think mine are January 2026 or something. So they can go up a lot in the time ahead. So I hope they do. Walter Bryan, are you exiting options because the liquidity cycle is also approaching the end of the cycle and hedge because of that? Yes, exactly, Walter. When I think liquidity is coming close to disappearing, I will be simultaneously hedging my bets, putting my money into cash, and probably locking away some physical Bitcoin to add to my stack for this cycle like I always do, and pulling out of riskier options. Like I've said, I've told people that have been here a while, I'm going to be dialing, when I make a bunch of money off the miners, I'll be dialing out of like the shit coins and the miners first, then MicroStrategy, then maybe I'll move into some Bitcoin ETFs, physical Bitcoin, but I'll also have my position lowered in that. If I've done really well off of Tesla, I'll be in stock only. For that one, I'll probably still hold a substantial amount. I'd like probably at the end of this in a year and a half, 2 years, I'd like to have at least 1 million, if not $2 or $3 million in Tesla stock that I just keep in there. But I'll hedge, and then I'll hedge my bets with TMF and maybe some other stuff. Starbucks is looking juicy as of late. Maybe that'll end up turning into a good hedge because they really do get crushed during an economic down cycle. So it's going to be interesting to try and figure it all out. This cycle is going to be more complicated than anything we've ever seen before because we'll have aggressive money printing like we've never seen before. And the world is a rocky place for debt. So if we don't see an acceleration in growth, I don't know. There's a lot to judge in the next year. That's what you guys need to stick around for. Rocky A, do you not like Riot as a miner? I don't really care that much about them. They could be good too. I just don't care. I don't care. I already have 3 miners. That's enough for me. I'm diversified. I feel pretty solid about my portfolio and what I own. All right, let me get back to it here. Where we leave off. Anything else I want to look at? Let's see. Put call ratio, I'm imagining is pretty low. Yeah, it dropped more today. So again, nobody's really buying puts. Nobody's trying to hedge. Volatility isn't there in stocks anymore. Volatility isn't there in bonds anymore. All that stuff kind of disappeared, and people aren't scared. So, but let's look. Let's go to Bitcoin, and then again, I'll start looking at the articles that pertain to it. So Bitcoin, I think, and let me just draw this better. I think Bitcoin is really kind of in a it's in a broadening wedge, a descending broadening wedge, and it depends on where we like start this, but you can grind here for a while. But the pattern that this has made is not a pattern that is looking to break down. It's just not. You've got these really violent up thrusts, like one there, one here, and again some violent downs. But just with everything we know about the macro and the fundamentals of the world tied with this pattern, we should break higher, and it should happen soon. Now, I thought maybe it was going to happen today when we were in the 61.3s up here. It was a really good time to do it, but it didn't. And that's just the way it works sometimes. But I do think that there's the distinct possibility that we're going higher. And even if we grind out over here, even if we got down in the mid 50s, I just don't care. I don't care. I'm not going anywhere, I can tell you that. All right, let's see what else we got. MicroStrategy, let's look specifically at this one. Down 3.7% today, but still looking very strong. And again, holding up better than the other riskier miner plays because these guys just have such a wealth of Bitcoin. I'm going to look at CleanSpark. CleanSpark underneath the .5 still sitting above the 200 moving average on the weekly though. So if we can find support in here and break higher, all dependent upon Bitcoin, but it's looking okay. It's really been depressed pretty hard for CleanSpark. Now, I was thinking that we were going to break up higher out of this. We just did not. So that is not the pattern that we're seeing right now. And if anything, I should probably do something like this for Mara and then just redraw this thing completely. Because again, we got no love on that. And that's the thing that people get screwed up with in TA. They think that because something's made a technical pattern, that it has to happen. And that is never true. That is never true. It does not have to happen. There's probabilities. You can look at statistical probabilities of an event occurring. But it's just a statistical probability. It doesn't mean that it can't do something different. So you always kind of have to look at what patterns might be coming ahead. But again, this thing's down 55% from where it was just in February. So those Mara pigs, they got gutted, didn't they? That's how it works, though. All right. Let's see. CleanSpark, we did. Let's go to Cypher real quick. And Cypher, again, is incredibly beat up. We're actually below the fib, the first fib and peak volumes in this one. So we could, you could go to 350 or something. You could go to 326. I think that would be some good territory, though, because we're just barely over $1 billion cap. And I honestly think this thing can scream higher. It could get to, maybe even 10 or something like that. It's hard to know for sure. But it could 10x, I think. I think that's a fair number. And the .618, that's the golden retracement zone. So like we could say maybe that's the peak. That one right there, no, that's not the peak. There's no way. It won't make that. It'll go well beyond that. That's only 163% increase. So it's just doing it. This one's a little weird because I don't have a fib extension. I just have a retracement because it doesn't have that much history. But I think we could hit 163% in months. And again, we could get up, yeah, we could get into the 15 range pretty easily on this one. And then it's this weird no man's land where it can go much higher. To the dot 168 would be 24. I think that's doable. Is Mara the biggest miner? By hash rate right now, yes. And by amount of Bitcoin held. Oh, I need to do a Bitcoin miner video. I'm going to do a Bitcoin miner video that's going to talk to a lot of the work that Sebastian Ski does, and maybe a little bit of James with Invest Answers. I'm going to get you guys a video for that kind of given, because I want you guys to have a good bead on kind of where things are sitting, not just from their perspective, but from mine, which I believe can be better at times. Don't tell them, James, if you're watching. I'm sorry. All right, $5. Message retracted, but you gave me $5, so I'm loving you here, Rhett. I don't know if you took the money back yet, but thank you for that. All right, let's keep going here. So let's get back to our comments about Bitcoin. Let's look through it. So Elja, boom, drew this chart. He's showing the halving event of each cycle, just the last two, like the one we just experienced and the one before that. But they're all kind of the same, right? Don't forget Sofi for me. I'll do that right after this, like right after we look at this article. Thanks, dude, especially for another 5. I don't know what happened to your first message, but you can see here. So look, again, after this cycle, if we look at the amount of time and days, he's showing the circle here. It is not crazy to be where we're at. It's not crazy to have it take several weeks to maybe a month or two before we really start to break out. And I know if you're new to this, it gets scary, right? Like you see all these people that are super excited, they're promising you the world, and then they're wrong because the macro is a little bit different, because the fundamentals of Bitcoin have played out a little bit differently, or because the TA isn't working out right. But you just have to be patient. This is where you get rewarded for your patience level. Let me hop over to Sofi though, since you were nice. You gave me $10, man. I'm gonna give you some Sofi here. We'll go to that right now. I still like Sofi. Again, it's a bank. It's a bank, which I don't love right now. But today was basically flat because it's up 0.3% in after hours after being down 0.45%. So you can see where we've been establishing support. I've said this several times, going back to October of 2023, November, almost into December, finding support off of what was previous resistance levels. And if you look at the daily, it looks a little cleaner. But previous resistance levels back in August of 2022, long effing time ago, January 2023, found all the support for months, then found support again for months, and now found it again, and then had a nice bounce off of it. This wants to go higher. It wants to flip up. You can see it in the MACD. You can see it in a lot of things. And so I think it's just a matter of, again, getting up here above peak volumes at 728, and then breaking out above this previous resistance zone that goes all the way back to November of 2021, almost, 3 years ago? So when we break out of this thing, when we get up here, we're so close, I think it's going to look really good, dude. So I think, again, it's one of those things where, and I remember when I first met Tanner, and I appeared on his show a couple times, back in July 2023, when we peaked up here in the 11-ish range. I think we're going to get to that in short order. So if you have options, I think you'll do pretty good in the months and quarters ahead. I'm not playing it because again, there's still risk there, and I don't like the risk to reward personally because it's just not enough of a multiplier. But you should do really good. I wouldn't enter it, but stock too. I mean, a 75% increase if you got a decent amount of money in there isn't bad. And then again, it could allow you to buy other things you really want to buy too as it goes higher. And then again, if we have a good blow up time, $21 wouldn't be crazy, and that is a nice increase from the 663 that we're at right now. Tim Anders, Jesse, thanks for the price of tomorrow. Book reference, great book. Do you recommend any others? No topic is off limits. Most of my books have been financial. I've done a few others. It's mostly financial, but I think if you haven't, the Bitcoin Standard is amazing. And for people that haven't read The Price of Tomorrow, it does there's a guy named Jeff Booth who I absolutely love. He's brilliant, and he talks about why Bitcoin is revolutionary, and then also just why technology and in general is being undervalued right now, based upon exponential growth that we're going to be looking at in the future. So, and he's just a brilliant guy. There's a great audiobook there. But yeah, the Bitcoin Standard, if you want to understand money to its base, like really understand money and what it's been over time and how people have stored it and how people have commerced with it. The Bitcoin standard to me is a de facto. This is where you start. So I would do that one, man. If anybody's looking to get a good read, get the Bitcoin standard. Understand how we went from money being a bunch of like huge fucking stones that you had to push around, or that you could barely move and had to use it with people to get them, put them on carriages to be able to move them to show ownership. And it wouldn't even necessarily be on people's land, to shells, to just everything that's been used as money over time. And then why it stopped. Really important things to know on like and how civilizations evolved from money. Oh, it's just such a good one, dude. And then and it lets you know why Bitcoin is just so important and so revolutionary. So I love it, and highly recommend it, and would tell anybody to read that one first. I think you'll get so much out of it. It's just a really good one. There's other people too, like Andres Antonopoulos. There's a bunch of Bitcoin people, but that one, man, the broad knowledge of what I learned there has really helped me become the person I am and turn into a multimillionaire just from my conviction of understanding money way better than I used to. So that's me. I second Tim's question. Price of Tomorrow and Broken Money were nice. Yeah, dude, if you haven't seen Bitcoin Standard, do that. And I'll try and think of some other good ones too that you guys could read. There's a lot of them. There's other books about abundance too that I think are really important. Understanding the concept of where the world is headed if we don't destroy it is super, super important. Yeah, but I'll think of others too that you guys might like. All right, let me get back. So with Bitcoin, again, be patient. This is a beautiful looking thing, and there's so much math behind Bitcoin. You're gonna make money off of it, guys. You just are, without providing financial advice. Bitcoin Munger, Daily MACD just crossed bullish. We're going to run it back. TikTok, next block. I think he's right. We're going to do that. We actually are under it a little bit right now, but I do think that's the general direction, and I like what he's doing here. He's got a good chart. And it's coming. Somebody argued with me about this. Let's see if they had a fucking point. Somebody said, oh, balance on exchange, so dumb. So dumb, balance on exchange. What did you say? No, he didn't say shit to it. All right, okay. That's what I figured. That's the response I figured. So he said, so this guy, and if you're in here, Lewis, sorry for shitting on you, but he said this exchange balance stuff is mostly nonsense. It's been said for like 6 months now, but either way, the move will come. So he's saying that it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin is on exchange. My argument is it totally fucking does, and I'll show you some charts with that stuff tomorrow. I said it's not nonsense. I don't know what I said. Maybe I used maybe I did voice to speech on this one, so I'm sorry. But I said this is nonsense. When there are less Bitcoin on exchanges, a high demand rush can overwhelm the existing orders, like all the limit orders that you have sitting out there, and cause a large price increase over a short period of time. So just not having a lot of Bitcoin available is important. Then also, after FTX and all these other issues that we had in the crypto world, a ton of people started moving money to hardware wallets. If it's on a hardware wallet, it's not easily and quickly transferred over, or can't be used for those limit orders that I was talking about that make it to where you can easily sell it. So if you don't have as much Bitcoin on there to sell, you're limiting your downside price pressure potential. And at the same time, with demand going higher, which we can see from a bunch of charts, I'll do that. I haven't done that in a while. Maybe there's a bunch of people in here that haven't seen all the stuff I've talked about with Bitcoin and charting, and just like the different measures to look at. But again, with demand going up at a steady pace, with seeing all the hodlers that are increasing at the higher cohorts, the people that have like lots of Bitcoin, 1, 100, 10, 100, 1,000, all this kind of stuff in the ETFs, the amount that's been absorbed is huge. And then the amount that's available just for retail to purchase is very low. And when we see a lot of money printing and people have a rush of money, this thing will explode higher for those reasons, along with many others. So this is not a dumb thing, Lewis. It's a very important thing that to see that the number of Bitcoin has dropped by like 10%, from where it was at roughly 2.72 million. Down to 244 or something right now. That's a good thing. We want that to keep happening. All right, let me see. 60% of my portfolio is Sofi. All right, let me see here. God, you guys are so generous today. I have a second. Okay. Albert said 60% of my portfolio is SoFi. Really looking forward for the end of the year. And here's the thing: even if SoFi, as depressed as it is, it's probably going to maintain and not drop. So even if traditional markets, or I should say, other parts of the market get hit, like maybe the Teslas and even Bitcoin, crypto, like things that are higher multiple things usually, if they get hit and SoFi doesn't drop, then you're still doing good because you could buy the dip using some of it. So I don't think that's a crazy play right now. Alexander, Broken Money by Lynn Alden, highly recommended. Yeah, that's one of the that's I just think of that as like more sophisticated though. So if you're not entry level into the world of finance and economics, Lynn is brilliant, but I don't know if it's as easy to follow as something like the Bitcoin Standard. I think you're going to do a better job with something like that. It's just like a really great way, a starting point to understand money. And then you're right. If you get that really well and you know a decent amount about economics or like have intermediate knowledge of it, then I agree. Broken Money is a beautiful book. Danny Ventura, One Up on Wall Street, How to Use What You Already Know to Make Money in the Market. Interesting. I'll have to check it out. By Peter Lynch. Oh, yeah, that's probably a must read. I actually should probably look at that one. Peter Lynch. Peter Lynch book. That sounds interesting. All right. Swelly Enduit. I'm gonna try and get your name right, man. It's gonna be rough. Maybe you can like sound it out for me so I know it really well and I don't butcher it every time I say it. Any snow take earnings are on the 21st, and Buffett bailed. Like bailed? Are you saying that he bailed on it, like he jumped out? I'll look it up real quick here, since you were nice enough to give me a tip in whatever that is. Let me see. I love that I'm getting a bunch of people that are like all over the place. I just think that's fucking cool. All right, snow. Let's look at snow. Snowflake. And I should probably look at financials. I think this one's been hit pretty good, right? It's definitely had this double dip, huh? We should look at financials first. Let me just update the chart though, real quickly while I'm in here, just to get it to where it's a little more accurate. All right, so you can see where it tried to get over the .382, it couldn't make it, broke down. Pretty decent technical stuff. Probably had divergence in there too. It's down 69% from where it was in the 2021, but really from the top. From the top, it's down 70%. So it's been hit, man. Snowflake was a tough one. Oh, and it looks like DLO's down 3.54% now. So again, it's just a weird one. It's a small cap, so such low volume. I'm just not gonna pay a lot of attention to it right now. But let's look at snow in here. And again, I'm gonna kind of go to, I don't remember who said this last time in one of our other chats. I think it was Silas. I don't know if he's in here right now, but I do think that higher risk companies are not what I would be focused on right now, and I don't love this right here. I don't know how well you can see this on the screen. This is a 227 forward PE. I don't love that. This is a very rich valuation, and I didn't look at last earnings, but if you look at Q1, it was brutal. Their highest net income loss after what looked like it could maybe be a turnaround, but you can see how they've done that a few times. Like, oh, hey, this is looking good. Fuck you. Oh, hey, this is looking good. Fuck you. Oh, hey, this is looking good. Fuck you. So it's almost like a tease. You see growth. You see revenue going up, customer count going up, products going up, cash flow is getting better. Share dilution, I'm sure, is there. Yep, they're still diluting. Operating expenses are not scalable. I don't like this at all. How can you be a software company? And again, they're doing tons of R&D. I get that. But the S&M and G&A, like, I don't know. You'd think that these numbers would look better. I would be happier. I should say this. I'm happy that at least a decent amount of their operating expenses into research and development. I like that, but I don't know a lot about the company fundamentally. But again, revenue going up. They're talking about positive EPS. What are the owners of the company doing? They're not doing anything since 2021. They're not selling. They're not buying. They're not doing anything. So they don't think it's a super good deal, or they think the macro is scary, right? But we're not seeing. I don't love this. Again, and you can do this. And if the market is a great market, if the stock market is a great market, you can do this for a while. This operating expenses are higher than your revenue, but not by much because you're burning money pretty slow. But like net revenue retention is dropping revenue by regions. You can kind of look at some of that. Maybe somebody cares. I don't care too much. What are they? Stock-based comp is 40% of revenue. So this company, like, you're enriching the people who work there and that are diluting shares. But this just isn't a great investment to me. For a forward PE of 227 is disgusting. Um, there's a lot of people who like to argue that Tesla is overvalued at current levels, and let's see what their forward PE is. And again, they've started to not make as much of a profit by like a decent amount. Theirs is 80. They're at 80 for their PE, and this other one is 220. Let's look at Palantir. Palantir is probably pretty rich, but they've had really great growth. They're at 86. So yeah, so they're just a little bit higher than Tesla right now. And they've done everything right. It's just a much better stock. And so I could see Snowflake continue to drop. That's my worry, dude. I don't know the fundamentals of the business really well, though, outside of these financials. But that would be my biggest worry, is that they just, from a financial standpoint, they don't look great. Chris Federal, you know anything about Black Lords? It's a medieval game on the blockchain. No. Compatible with Immutable X on Polygon. Nah, I never pay attention to that shit. If you like playing the game, and you don't mind losing money, cool. But I don't give a fuck about games. I don't. Like, there'll be a bigger thing, I think, in the future. There'll be something that exists there, but I just don't care about any of that. It's this market right now. I've got my speculative plays as a percentage of my portfolio. I'm not doing a lot of research on like little tiny fucking things that pull my focus away from the big picture, and it's like I'm not doing any of that stuff. So I'm pretty lazy at it, Chris. Ultra small, $8 million market cap. Yeah, not even interested. That's just me though, dude. Unless it's a fun game, and then I might throw a little bit of bucks at it for gambling or something, which I do not like to do. Diego Ramirez, hey Jesse, can you take a look at Celsius stock? Yeah, this one's been butchered. You know what's weird too, and this is totally anecdotal, so it's not like a real thing, or I mean, it might be indicative of a real thing, but it's not necessarily percentage wise indicative of a real thing. But I find it fascinating, let me get the right one here. I find it fascinating for like Celsius. I've been to a couple of stores, and they had this stuff like all over the front of it, and they were just stocking it everywhere, and just everywhere and everywhere and everywhere, and just putting in more and more and more of it. And now it seems like they're moving it like further into the back of the store, and I think it's still popular, but I think there's a lot of people that were drinking it because their stock price was going up a lot. I know that sounds insane, but and I've never drank it because I can't drink this carbonated shit. Maybe you guys can tell me in chat. Is this stuff just amazing? Whoa, DLO. Partnership. Got to check that out. But here's what I don't like. I don't like the double top. If you inverted this, so we'll do this again. I've shown people this before, and I'll do it real quick right now just to show you guys. But if I invert the scale, if I saw this pattern on a stock that had fallen a lot, and it was getting ready to break through the 200 moving average, and it had went up this violently, I would be like, fuck, dude. I am buying the shit out of that because this looks great. This thing looks like it wants to take off. I could make an easy whatever to get to 22. Well, 22 is about a 45% drop from where we're at. So let's combine that. So I don't like that right there, bro. Like right there. That's enough for me to not like this. The precariousness of this, especially if general markets do take a hit. I'd rather be in a Tesla that's just been beat up for years. I'd rather be in like an RG that's been beat up for years. All these stocks that I have that could provide asymmetric returns. DLO's down 3.54%. We're talking about Microsoft partnerships. I'm going to have to see what that really means. But let's get over here real quick and go to Celsius. And then I'm going to go over my list of stocks too, and we'll get back in chat. I'm trying to do a better job of really communicating and chatting with you guys. It's more fun. It's more interactive. What do you guys think? I like it better that way. Celsius. So again, revenue growth, 23%. Net income, not bad. But forward PE isn't bad. So from a financial standpoint, could this thing get cut in half and be in the 20s for the kind of business they do? Yes. That's my worry. So this thing, I would say it's pretty fairly valued, maybe undervalued if we get to 22. So if we break down under the 200 moving average, which I think is likely unless the broader market does really well, So if the broader market sucks, this thing's fucked. It's dropping 45%, and then it's a great value at 23. And I actually like the value so much of there without really knowing this company very well, just looking at the financials, that at 24, I'm probably going to put in an alert just to track this, and maybe I buy a really small amount of it. But here's the thing you got to look at the weekly on this one. It's been going up hard since like the pandemic. Look at this, straight up. But then at the same time, roughly over that same period of time, for about 3 years plus, this thing has bearish divergence on the weekly time frame, even though it's been doing nothing but going up. So like at 22, I think it's a much better deal. It would have a forward PE in the 20s. It could drop even further and get weird. Maybe it gets into the 15s or something. But yeah, it would be more interesting at that point. We'll have to see how things are going and if I have any interest in it at that point in time. Hey, Jesse, did you by chance look at IWM? I didn't. Let's do it real quick. And then I will, I'm probably going to jump around into a few other things that I want to go over, and then we'll go back to, and make sure I haven't missed anybody in the beginning here and with you guys. And thank you for all the tips and I don't know what you guys are giving me in the way of money, but whatever that was. I appreciate all you guys. All right, IWM. So again, this is the iShares Russell 2000. So this thing's been decimated just like the rut, right? Like this is the rut. Or the Russell 2000. This is just the ETF version of it. So it's the exact same. So when I look, just so you guys know, I don't really need to look at IWM. I don't really need to look at it because I can just do this, right? What I normally do where I kind of walk through the indexes, because this is the pure version of it. The other one's the ETF. There's going to be more signal here, honestly. So, and again, we're still above the fib, this first fib. We had this major impulse up. It went violently down, but I think it tested really good here too. So I expect this thing to probably be signal. This large uptick we had to 2,300, I think that's more signal than noise. And that's where I could see like DLO, Flux, and maybe some other small companies, especially like the PayPals and stuff that have been beat up forever, do better. So if I don't do the IWM, just think of it as the rut, okay? Because it's the same thing, Sally. All right. And let me see here. So I'm gonna walk through some more of my stuff here real quick. I think we did PayPal. Yeah, we did PayPal. We're gonna do Hood. Hood actually looks really good, I think, on this one. And I still think that Hood can go to 77 this cycle with Bitcoin, which is why I love the call option so much. But just look at this bounce that we did. So any potential for a head and shoulder just plummeted and it broke down. It's so nice looking. So nice looking. We did SoFi, skip SoFi. Square, again, struggling a little bit here with this downward trend. It needed to get above it and break above it. You can see if we go back here, and again, this will work at each level, but you can see how this really needs to be turned into support. This one just hasn't found its support as well as some of these others. Do I think it deserves to go up over time? Yeah, maybe. And if I look here, I just want to look at the financials for Square because I haven't done that in a long time. Let's look at their last quarter. I don't even think I paid attention. Did they do Q2 already? They did. Okay. So I didn't do that one. I will do these things in the future. I just haven't been. So their cash position looks good. Their debt went up a little bit. Again, their positive net income now, which is nice. 195 million in a quarter isn't horrible. Their forward PE is 17. This is stupid low. If I get something else popping and Square continues to grind, I am going to start looking at options for this thing because I just feel like this company is incredibly undervalued at a forward PE of 17. It does not make any sense. If you look at the yearly on this, again, and rates hurt them. You can see it, right? Like you can see some of this. You see how their peak was in 2019 and then 2020. I guess it wasn't rates. This is probably just mismanagement and competition. But revenue going up, and they had a bunch of stuff going on within the company too. That just again. This is why Jack Dorsey was kind of refocusing his energy so much in the company was to help margins, help all this stuff. But you can see the thing I love about it, big Bitcoin revenue contribution. That stuff is gonna, I think, go up significantly in the years ahead, and it's gonna make up a greater portion. And they're doing a lot integrating with Lightning Network. There's a lot of really beautiful things I think going on with this company that can help them. They haven't had quite the growth, but again, as rates come down, I think that. I don't know. I think we're going to see a lot more transactions. I think we're going to see more loans coming out, not just for these guys. The way they make their money is a little bit different than something like, a PayPal and Sofi and some of these others. But again, look at that. Bitcoin gross profits, those are going to go up a lot when the number goes up. Cash App monthly active users still strong. Deposits per Cash App user. They want to be a bank. All these fintechs are competing against each other. So I think this one is very interesting. I need to do deeper dives. It looks like Cash App business was doing really good. It looks like Square kind of tabled off. But anyway, what does it have for a segment? Let me look here. I like the subscription business. Look at that. Look at how much of that makes of their revenue and how much growth we're seeing in that. That's the kind of stuff where you're going to see scalability from operating expenses. But hardware is a loss. Subscriptions are the biggest gainer. Transactions are a decent amount. And then Bitcoin is a very small amount, but that number will start to increase. And it'll help their narrative too. But like, again, operating expenses that are kind of trended down while revenue's going up. There's a lot to like here for a company that has a 17 PE ratio. I can tell you, I would take that over Celsius's in a heartbeat, and definitely over Snow's, which is like 11 to 4x theirs. So yeah, this one actually might be interesting to me again in the future here. All right, so let's look. Did we do Palantir today? I don't think we did. So again, Palantir, God, just continuing to be strong, up 2% on the day. I've said for a while that we could get up to we could close this gap, and I think we did close the gap. I think we closed the Palantir gap, guys. That is officially gone. Yeah, I took it out last time. I think now, if it wasn't officially closed, it's officially closed. I'm going to make a super brave call here and say that this is the top. Could it be higher? Could we make it all the way up to 44? Sure. But what kind of increase is that even? A 45% increase. Yeah, that could happen. And again, this isn't, and maybe I'm wrong and we continue to go higher. Maybe we get it even up to 80. But I just don't like, here's the thing, I don't have a good call option with this one. It's just the stock. And if it goes up to its previous all-time high, it's only a 45% increase. So it's not like I'm getting a 3 to 4x like I'm looking at doing with Tesla or more. Versus the underlying asset. And even if it gets up to like the dream level here, let's say it got to 80, since there's no good call options for this because they're already so rich in valuation. And I made 600K off of this call on the bottom from a technical, an inverse head and shoulders, but there's just not enough upside for me over the short term. But I will buy a lot of this when I make a bunch of money off of other things, just in case of war. This will be one of my hedges actually. But it'll be a war hedge, and I think that maybe it'll break down by then and get in the 20s. I don't know. Could be wrong. You guys could butcher me later if I am. All right. Let's look at Archie. Haven't looked at that one. And I don't know if I'll have the financials for the... and I missed somebody's comment about DLO. What was it? Michael Myers said, DLO partnership with Microsoft. Net income, $46.2 million. Highest ever. They've been buying back shares. Things are looking good. Let me see if Alejandro has that one. He updates for premium, but I don't know. It's such a small company. I'm going to say that unless I requested it specifically as a friend, I don't know that that one's going to be updated right away today since they're having earnings right now, just because nobody pays attention to it. You know what I mean? That it's just not the way you run your website, like visualstocks.com, by being really fast at updating things that nobody pays attention to. But Archie's still looking great. Same thing. This line right here of support is beautiful, and we're holding it, and I think it's going to be great, and I think it's going to go higher if we go more risk on in the future. But let's look here real quickly and see if we can see DLO, and then I'll start to get back to chat and make sure I haven't missed any. All right. Hit the like, folks. I agree with that. If you guys could do that, that'd be awesome. Diego, hell yeah, I like it. Kamawa, loving today's stream. Thank you. I'm glad to hear it. Derek Fisher, what strike price and expiration are you on Hood? Good question. I don't even know. Let me see over here. I'll look at that while we're looking at DLO and seeing if... nope, I don't see anything on here. So let me just go on X. And I got to look at Bitcoin here too. Let's see what else we got on Bitcoin while we're going through this. So Hood. What do I have? I want to say it's like January 2026 35. I want to say it's that. And again, I've got an Options 101 video. If you guys haven't seen it, you have to see it. It's really good. So I am up a whole 5% on Hood. Yay, 4%, 2.5% today on my calls. 35 strike, January 2026. I got it in at $2.03. It's $2.11 now, but I think it could scream higher. It had good numbers behind it. That was in a previous market recap. I should have made a standalone video. Maybe I can parse out part of it and make a standalone video and show and send it members only to people, so that you guys could see that, because I think it's a good one. Now, Carl Menger said, central banks print more currency in a millisecond than you earn in your lifetime, making your hard work worthless over time, stealing your most precious asset of your life. Don't save others. Don't save others can simply print. So again, we talked about this briefly yesterday, but being a saver, getting a couple of % interest in an environment that is printing money in mass, and not necessarily even just physically printing, but digitally printing money in mass. It's not a smart idea. Bitcoin for freedom. Imagine working a 9 to 5 for 50 years, and then the Fed prints 40% of the total money supply and inflates away 20 years of your work. That's what happened. So some people don't have to imagine it. If you're older and you thought you were safe in bonds and you did all this stuff that you thought was right, and you had your livelihood stolen from you, it's fucking sad, man. It's sad, but it's the way the world works. August 13th, just yesterday, I missed this one and I want to make sure people knew it. Metaplanet bought another 500 yen worth of Bitcoin. Marathon Digital, again, their $250 million offering. I don't think they've completed that yet. Do you guys know if they've completed that? And again, just looking at traditional patterns, my friend here, he's really great, a great technician. There's a few like this. Stock Money Lizard, another weird name, is another good one, but Titan of Crypto is great. He actually gets referenced on James a lot lately. James can see his brilliance. But if you look here, a right-angled descending broadening wedge. I was briefly talking about this, less sophisticated, but he's showing bullish crosses that happen on the MACD, and he's showing what happens with the price. And he's saying, I think we're getting ready to have a bullish MACD cross. And if you look, the number of touch points you'd see on a right-angled descending broadening wedge is just lined up almost perfectly with what we're seeing here. And that the measured move for that would put us in the 90s. I actually have us right around 92 because I do it a little bit differently, but I think he's 100% right. And I think that's a big deal, guys. August 12th, Vivek posted this. He said, public companies raising to buy more Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, $2 billion. Mara, $250 million. Metaplanet, $70 million. Similar Scientific, $150 million. You're not bullish enough. And I think he's right. We're going to be seeing, potentially, if Trump gets elected, a stockpile for Bitcoin. And we've got all these companies around the world that are buying Bitcoin. And more companies will be doing that, along with other countries and central banks around the world. They're going to have to be like, shit, we're going to have to do this too. At least have some allocation. If the United States is doing it, we've got to do it too. And so when you look at the rainbow chart and you look at the halving cycles that have occurred and what happens afterwards, look at the rainbow chart. After the halving cycle, you're in the purple zone, into the blue zone, right? Right above purple in the blue zone. In the blue zone. In this case, it was a really good start to the halving last cycle. We had a really strong run, but you got to remember Tesla also bought like billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. People got really excited, and then the Fed cut rates, and it just neutered it all. But so we were even above blue at that time. Well, look here, we're in blue. We're not in purple. We're right in the normal fucking range that we should normally be in. And one could argue that even though, again, we had the top end of this rainbow chart, you could say there's some like diminishing return and that you can do lower. But even if it sucked, last time we got into like orange up here, let's say that this time it only gets into yellow. You're looking at hundreds, $500,000. Let's say it only gets into green. You're looking at probably a couple $100,000. And this isn't the only way of weighing this. There's a bunch of different ways. This is probably the more aggressive one. But again, from a bottoming standpoint, this is looking good. And you had all this artificial pressure that drove this thing that neutered its cycle, which I think would have been up here, and then kind of caused it to go into purple, where I think historically it wouldn't have this cycle. It would have been a little bit higher. But again, the Fed fucked everything up. So I just want to reiterate that, like, we're at the sweet spot, guys. HODL. Bitcoin, $3,000. Nah. Bitcoin, $19,000. Nah, you guys are stupid. Why are you buying that right now? I heard it's dead. I heard gold is doing better. I heard its gold is up. It done better in the last 3 years. Why would you own Bitcoin? Bitcoin at 60,000. Nah. At 100,000, you just got lucky. That's what's happening, guys. That is literally verbatim, maybe not drawn that way, what's happening. And so this is funny because I got a lot of hits on this one. 719, everybody loved it, and then it shit the bed. And then we rolled over, right? And so now we're all the way over here, guys, and it's so scary. We're right down here. But this is what I see coming. And again, I've got it drawn out to the fib. It's a little bit different than Titan, but that gets us to 92K. And I'm really good at this, guys. I've done a really good job predicting Bitcoin's path for the tops and especially the bottoms of the cycle. And I'm not saying that just bragging. It's just I'm good at it. I'm not good at a lot of things in life, but I'm really good at this. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz, what Bitcoin presents is an opportunity in real time to enhance the resiliency of our grid. Bitcoin is a reservoir of power, a safety blanket for the state of Texas. He is 100% right about this because what they have is they have agreements with the Bitcoin miners to where, hey, if we've got an ice storm like we had years ago, turn the fuck off. We need the energy. If we have a heat wave, turn the fuck off. We have an energy. We'll give you credits for it, but we can use you to ensure that we have the extra capacity we need when shit hits the fan without having to have these things run all the time. And then when they're not running, you get the benefit of being able to mine Bitcoin, and this helps your cost structure. And he's right. It's brilliant. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And I think that's great. And again, Bitcoin shouldn't be political. Right now, it is. I've fought for Democrats so hard from a political front saying that, hey, I think they're making the progress they need to. And there are some that are great. And I do think that there's going to be pressure, especially amongst younger cohort that are running for election and all different forms of the Democratic Party will start to embrace it more because they have to. But again, I just got to say it's more right-leaning right now. These are the people that are going to help us in the Bitcoin and crypto world. So if you want to do really well in the next couple of years, I personally think you should. I know who you should be voting for. All right, let's look at this real quick. This is so cool, and I can't wait to do this. All right, that's horrible music that I'm not going to get copyrighted for. But this is the Tesla supercharger in West Hollywood. It's going to be such a fucking cool place, and I'm going to visit it when it comes up. It's going to be like you could get your frozen yogurt, or not frozen yogurt. You can get your Frosty there. You can get like some good food. You can hang out. You see a little Cybertruck in here. You can watch a movie while you're charging. Like, it's just going to be a weird, fun type of drive-in theater experience like we haven't seen in a very long time. And I think that's so cool. And then it's got like a second deck on here to hang out and eat. I think this is really fun. This doesn't matter to the bottom line whatsoever, but it's cool, and it's just another thing that's going to make Tesla stand out from the rest. Sawyer Merritt posted today, Tesla ranks first in J.D. Power's 2024 U.S. Electric Vehicle Experience Public Charging Study. Overall, both Tesla and non-Tesla owners find charging their vehicles at Tesla supercharger facilities the most satisfying. So, like, again, it says overall customer satisfaction index rating, DC fast charger. You can see Electrify America is the worst. EVgo sucks. ChargePoint isn't great. And then segment average doesn't even count because it's basically those guys and the supercharger. So really, ChargePoint, it's either Tesla or ChargePoint. Those are the only things you even want to come close to using. And I honestly just buy a Tesla. Oh, hit the wrong button. My bad. All right. Again, everything Elon is what I bring up here, basically, right? Because I want us to understand what's going on with Elon, because this is the only publicly traded company he has, and that is what's going to trade off of everything he says and does. Now, it says Doge designer. The only thing the entire media is talking about today is X. And a few months ago, they claimed X was dead. A year ago, X was like the dumbest fucking thing Elon had ever done. 6 months ago, 4 months ago, it was still going to fail as a company after firing 70 to 90% of the staff. I don't even know what the exact number is anymore. Maybe I can look that up while I'm looking at this real quick. Let me just put this. What percentage of staff was fired from X/Twitter after Elon Musk took power? Let me see if Grock has any answers. But again, just like after what was supposed to destroy this company, 80%, Grock said, all right, let me pull this over. This is amazing. So Grock said Elon Musk fired approximately 80% of Twitter's staff after taking over the company. This reduction was part of his strategy to cut costs and restructure, leading Twitter employee count around 1,500 people from an initial 8,000. So we got 80% of the staff was fired, guys. That is unheard of in modern times for a large software company to wipe out 80% of their staff. If you don't think that Trump and Elon Musk would make a great combination at saving this country from our over-indebtedness, the fact that we're the biggest line item that we pay on our balance sheet right now is interest on our debt. That's fucked. Now that if we lower rates, we can get that to where it's not the biggest thing. It'll probably go back to military spending. And then things like Medicare, Social Security, Medicaid. But guys, we need to have a sustainable economy in the future. And how awesome would it be for Elon Musk to be on an efficiency council that can talk about the federal government and find ways to improve it technically while reducing the burden that we pay for this massive inefficiency of large government. And again, everybody's talking about X now, guys. Everybody's talking about X. Everybody's talking about Elon. Everybody's talking about Trump, especially probably after every president you pull up is Trump on X. Sawyer Merritt said, Elon Musk's company XAI has released a new blog post. We're excited to release an early preview of Grock 2, a significant step forward from our previous model of Grock 1.5. I love it. I don't even use ChatGPT anymore. Don't get me wrong. There's Llama, whatever. There's the other versions that are arguably better for different reasons, a multitude of them. But this is like the things, if you look through here on how Grock is rating across a multitude of tests, compared to other versions of like Claude, Gemini, Llama 3, GPT-4, Claude 3.5, Sonnet. Some of these scores are getting really good. Many is what I have access to right now. I don't even know how you get Grock 2, if that's just out like an alpha to somebody. But these scores are really good. And if you look at some of these other versions of GPT and stuff, like this is becoming industry leading stuff. And it's just a lot of fun. If you guys don't pay for premium, support the cause and at the same time play around with the chatbot without having to pay for ChatGPT. It's a cool experience. And 3, Elon has said, is going to be the most advanced AI on Earth for this kind of stuff. Rothmist, again, this is political, but it says, you don't hate journalists enough. I just want to show you this because it's important. Again, I've said Elon's support and what just happened with this interview is going to be rough for Tesla if Trump doesn't get elected. So if you're not voting for Trump, I just want to say, if you're invested in the stuff I'm talking about and you're not voting for Trump, and let's say your party wins, Kamala, you're going to be shooting yourself in the foot. So I hope you're hedged well. That's what I want to say, because again, I won't go into all of it. I'll skip the politics for now. But look at this. Trump rambles. So USA Today, don't get me wrong. The mic that he had, it was just a phone sitting in front of him. Both of these guys were just hanging out remotely. It did sound a little slurry because I think he was tired. He's been going nonstop working, and he's old, right? But it says Trump rambles, slurs his way. I mean, Trump rambles all the time. Let's just be fair. Slurs his way through Elon Musk interview. I mean, who cares? I think the content of what he said, especially near the end, got a lot better. And again, him focusing on almost dying. Wouldn't everybody be kind of focused on that within a month of almost dying and having the back of your head blown out? Wouldn't you be focused on talking about that a lot? I would. It says it was an unmitigated disaster, though. Really? Was it? Did you guys watch this? This isn't fair reporting. For a fascism-curious billionaire, that's who Elon Musk is, who loves cuddling up to the right-wing loons. This is in USA Today. Elon Musk sure is good at making right-wing politicians look stupid. That's the kind of stuff that goes out in mainstream media. These are AI images that were generated with Grock just since this update that happened in the last 24 plus hours. I think it's pretty cool, guys. I think it's pretty. Look at that. I want to see that fucking car. Kind of looks like a McLaren, but a Tesla. It's kind of cool. Holmar's catalog. Finally, some found a good use for a hydrogen car. So, hydrogen is the stupidest fucking technology in the world. And I think, somebody said, Martin Pilda, I think slurring was bad because of the microphone and bad microphone placement. Conversation was great, especially last. Yeah, if you have a bad mic, he was literally using like his phone. It just makes it shit. But yeah, so hydrogen is garbage technology. Toyota's still pushing for it. We've got so much. Look at this. Toyota, I think, have a solution for your unsold Mirai. Nobody's buying this car. It's super expensive and it costs like 5 times as much as gas, which is like 10 times as much, 15 times as much as electricity. But it says the Ukrainian forces claim to have used the tank from a Toyota Mirai hydrogen car to blow up a Russian position. Thank you, Toyota, for your contribution in wartime. Don't you want to own a car that can literally blow up the enemy or you? Sawyer Merritt. Construction has begun in Queensland, Australia on a new $750 million Tesla Megapack battery storage. That's almost $1 billion battery storage facility. How cool is that? And Australia went from their far right, like shitting all over Elon Musk, to literally relying so much on Elon for battery storage and to help in the western southwest of the country where they have some remote locations that just they couldn't survive. The people literally couldn't eat because they were paying so much to try and just not die from heat. And that's the one, if you've seen the video where Elon was crying, he actually teared up talking to the lady like on 60 Minutes in an interview, finding out how bad these people had it when they played these videos. And then he said, we'll do better. We'll fix it. Who does that? This guy finds out that these people are fucked and that they're struggling to eat. They're making decisions on whether they eat or run their air conditioning because they're old and they don't want to die from heat exposure. And the man tears up. And then his response is, we'll do better. That's fucking awesome. Anyway, Grock is faster than ChatGPT in an image generation. So, and again, some of the quality of this stuff. And there's areas where ChatGPT will outperform, but I don't have doubt that Elon Musk will have the best chatbot on Earth within a year or two. He'll do that. That's what happens. Let me get caught up with chat real quick too. Needs 55. Chunlin Ping. Will you buy more contracts of CLSK call? Yeah, if we get something, if we see a drop in Bitcoin, and it starts to really go down, yes, I will. So if we see Bitcoin maybe test down into the mid 50s, I will buy more. I'll sell CleanSpark stock. And I'll buy CleanSpark shares or calls in a heartbeat. Yes, I will. All right, let me go back over here. What do we got? There's so many. You guys talk so much. Let me look. C-List, is the CNY going to start showing the China crisis? Perhaps you discussed it already. I think it will. Yes. I think it will. We'll see how it goes. Oh, yeah, Soft War. That's another good book. Kenny Brown said, what do you think of Soft War by Jason Lowery? I think it's brilliant. For a while, they stopped allowing it to be sold. But I guess that's all changed. It's back on Amazon. They literally shut him down. The government shut him down and told him to stop talking about it. And then they told him he couldn't sell his book anymore. That actually went offline. And so for a while there, it's like I had a physical copy and you couldn't get it anymore. But it's a great book. You look at Bitcoin in a whole new way, and it's got just a bunch of really good history lessons, I think, again, in regard to technology and the government and like the military and the potential application that Bitcoin could have to remove kinetic war, which is like shooting with tanks and drones and other stuff and just making it to where people don't fight wars that way anymore. I think it's a brilliant thesis and very, very interesting personally. All right, there's a few more stocks in here. I'll probably look at those in a second. Wow, we've been doing this for 2 hours, guys. What the fuck? All right, let me just get through here. I'm going to read through. Would you treat Square as a Bitcoin play and use options? I might use options. I would not do June 2025. I'd probably do January 2026 because, again, it's not a direct Bitcoin play, but it might benefit from some of the Bitcoin narrative. So it might not have it might have a little broader a time that you can put in there where the option wouldn't bleed out as much. I don't know. I've got to look at Square. I like the fact that Square has such a ridiculously low PE. And I need to look at their quarter because I've not been doing conference calls as much, and I was not on here as much. So I need to look at their quarter and definitely pay attention to the next one if nothing else. But I need to see how they did and get a better feel of how they're going to do going forward. Chicken Bro, U.S. is currently looking to sell 10,000. I've heard that, but I don't know if it's real. So there were some of the U.S. government's Bitcoin. 10,000 Bitcoin has been moved to Coinbase Prime. That could just be custodying it, or it could be actually selling it. If Kamala Harris and Biden are selling Bitcoin before the election, I I just I don't think they're that stupid. I don't think they're that stupid. I would like to think they're that stupid. I would love for them to be that stupid because I think that's the best direction for the country and definitely for the stock market. So my bias is to have them be that stupid, but I don't think they're that stupid. But God, I hope so. Chun Lin Ping, will you buy more? No, I already answered that. Needs 55. Would you treat Square? I did that. Albert, if we hit yellow on BTC Rainbow chart in July of 2025, it's 100 to 140,000 K USD. Yeah, it's a good number, and it could go higher. Chicken Bro, Elon should do 80% cuts in government spending. I mean, dude, I think we could. I think the government is probably at least. We don't even have a citizen portal. I can't even log in to do my taxes. Plus, also, why aren't taxes completely and utterly automated to where, like, you get a bill and they tell you what your tax obligation is? There's just a lot of stuff. I don't know if I want that because of government oversight and a lot of other weirdness that comes with it. But shouldn't we be able to, like, for a lot of the stuff, just have a portal and have access to it and know that it's secured and other people don't have it, and just remove, like, all of the fucking people that do this shit manually, where you have to, like, call the IRS. And that's just the IRS. I mean, there's so many areas of government that are just complete and utter waste that you could eliminate. I think that they could crush it if you got rid of a bunch of, if you deregulated with stupid shit, old shit, outrageous shit, things that are, like, making it hard for SpaceX to do their job, things that are making it hard for Starlink to do their job, things that are making it hard for Tesla and Neuralink and Boring Company and a bunch of other companies that just we're not that young country that's pro innovation right now, like we were, that created, like, Silicon Valley and all these other places, right? We're not that right now. We need to get back towards more of that. So I hope that, yes, Elon will be on that council, Trump will win, and that we'll see something like that. Feedback, over 7 million shares. What was that in regard to? 7 shares. I'm not sure what the reference is. Maybe it was something earlier that I missed. Andrew, Mara just completed the oversubscribe. Oh, they did. Okay, cool. Oh, okay. That's probably what you guys are talking about. Andrew, 25,000 hodl now. Wow. So that's the thing about Mara. Mara's position from a Bitcoin miner standpoint is ridiculous. I'm just going to show you one thing, and I'll do that separate video. I might do that tomorrow. I'm definitely going to do a political video in the morning tomorrow because I want to catch people up with things that I think are really important in regard to polling and just a bunch of other stuff. And then I'm going to do the market recap tomorrow, but I might do a mining video too. But one of the things, and I'll show you, I love Sebastian Ski's work. I'll show you what all is going on with that. But if you look at Bitcoin production, not great, okay? It has not been great for Mara. There's this pattern, that the halving. Here's the problem. So you have the halving, and so it reduces the amount of Bitcoin you can produce, even and while you're expanding. That kind of sucks. And then the price hasn't went up, so you're not really doing great there. But you can see how they're growing. They're doing all right with growth. Like, they're doing all right. But here's the chart that really is crazy for them. It's this. So Q2 of 2024, they held $1.158 billion in Bitcoin. And they have, you said 25,000 Bitcoin right now. So they were at 18,488. If that number, I haven't validated it, but if that number is 25 now, that's a much bigger number. So these guys are getting closer to 2 billion in holdings, probably at least 1.5, 1.6 billion in holdings for their Bitcoin. And if this thing goes up 100, 200%, then you're looking at, $4.5 billion, $5 billion. Which is literally means that if it was at the price it was at today, they'd be trading at what they have in just assets, which is crazy. So, but that's an interesting thing. And then if you look, so their hash rate, what is their hash rate? I wish, you know what I need to do? I need to see if Alejandro has some good comparison charts between all the miners and visual stocks, or maybe you can create a dashboard or something for that. Alejandro, if you're listening, I'll hit you up too. But I would love it if you compared all the miners along with, like, MicroStrategy and the price of Bitcoin. just to where we could kind of see how things are playing out across like things like hash rate, Bitcoin holdings, you'd save me a lot of time with something like that. And I think that would be a cool dashboard for people to be able to look at. Like a lot of these really cool metrics that are across all miners. Like, are they selling or are they buying? How much are they producing per day? What are their electricity costs? What are their mining efficiency? What are their holdings? What does that look like in USD? These are cool things that we could look at and compare across some quick charts. I think that would be sweet to have. All right, let me see here. Feedback. The window for getting long on AI miners is closing. I'm not really into that AI miner thing, and maybe it turns out to be a thing. I don't think it's going to be as valuable as people think, just from my own personal mining experiences on how things play out over time, and just AI being such a huge narrative and everybody building out infrastructure at the same time that they're going to try and sell. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe over the short term, it's totally wicked. I don't know. Cody, looks like when you look up first president on Grock, it's updated George Washington. Elon definitely did that for last. Yeah, probably. So I thought it was brilliant. I thought at first it was like a bug. I was like, what the fuck? Why is this happening? This is a horrible narrative for X to be able to, or just pulling up Trump for everything. But then when you think about it, it's the absolute perfect troll. But I'm glad they fixed it. Martin Pilda, I think slurring was bad. Oh, yeah, we talked about that. Michael Myers, Walls agrees to debate J.D. Vance on October 1st. Holy fuck. That's going to be the best. Here's the thing. Trump, he rambles on and he doesn't always articulate himself the way he wants or the way he should. Sometimes he does a good job. He does a better setting with like Elon. I don't think he did that great in this last one, but the content I thought was good. So I'm not really super excited about Kamala Harris, even though I think Kamala is an idiot on her own. I think she'll just devastate herself when she debates Trump. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think she will, unless she's got some amazing policies from the DNC starting on the 19th in about 5 days, heading into the rest of next week. Unless the policies are really good and just get people super excited, I think we're going to see a shift going back towards Trump. But yeah, it's going to be the one I'm most excited about is that vice presidential debate. J.D. Vance is an absolute beast. If you guys haven't seen my political videos, you got to see J.D. Vance talk. And he's got so much ammo against Waltz. And Waltz is just insane. He's one of the most liberal people ever. I think it's going to be devastating for their campaign when those guys debate on October 1st, roughly 6 weeks from now. I think it's going to be devastating. So that's going to be an interesting date. All right, let me see here. Sealess, hydrogen is promising for long-range aircraft. Maybe, yeah. Maybe there's an application that maybe is helpful because batteries will have to get a lot more efficient for that to be helpful to really work in planes, like work well. But again, it's like where you apply the technology that matters, right? Diego Rivera, saxophone. Jesse, do you think the Who will try to make something big out of the monkeypox? Whatever, nobody cares. Yeah, I don't know, man. Here's the thing, though. Look at it this way, Diego. Look at it this way. What will happen if monkeypox becomes a big thing and goes out everywhere? We'll try and lock down stuff again. What are they going to do if they try and lock stuff down again? They're going to print money en masse, which I think they're already going to do. So if they were looking for an excuse to print money, yeah, that'd be a thing. But I wouldn't worry about that and put it in front of me because, again, I think that people already know that playbook. So I don't even know that we have the major drop that we had in March of 2020 where we just kept dropping because everybody was freaking out because we know the playbook, right? We know how bad it gets. And if anything, it probably wouldn't be as bad because there's a lot of things that people have learned, like a lot of the lockdown stuff was a waste, or that they can do things better and people would adapt to it quicker. So I actually think, if anything, it would end up being a plus, although I don't want a bunch of people to get monkeypox. All right. Toyota Hilux Ultimate Desert Terrorist Vehicle, Toyota Mirai Ultimate Driving Bomb. Toyota is military industrial. God, isn't it though? They've got a really durable, like the cheap one, but you're right. They totally use it in the Middle East and stuff. And like, it's like every dictator has like a fleet of people running around with like AK-47s in one of those little Toyota Hiluxes. That's so true, dude. All right, Silas, I bought Bitcoin on Square and Robinhood. Cool. All right. My thoughts exactly. The government should be able to tell you your taxes based upon exchanges earned. A lot of things, man. There's a lot of things we could just fix and simplify and reduce costs of, and then reduce taxes because we have reduced cost. And then maybe, dare I say it, balance a fucking budget. Does America care about that? Does anybody care about that? Let's use Bitcoin to help balance a budget along with Elon firing the 70% of fucking government over a period of 4 years or yeah, and just see what it looks like then. We could have the greatest boom of our lives in front of us if we make the right choices. All right. Albert, in Lithuania, we have an IRS portal which is automated. It's shit. If you hold stocks, you always manually change everything as something is always, yeah, that would be the government, right? That's why, again, but if they can create any efficiencies that allow them to be able to get rid of people, that's what's important. And then maybe the tax code could be revised too. That might not be easy unless they win a lot and have a lot of control. But again, we can find efficiencies. We can fire people. We can automate things. We can make the government better and make it sustainable. And then those people can move into the private sector and find real boy and girl jobs. I don't want to say that because not everything in government is just like a shit job, but there's so much of it, guys. Whether it's state, federal, it's just so much bullshit. People doing jack shit. Sealess, but I don't want them to have an excuse to be more intrusive. I agree. Totally agree. Yeah. Derek Fisher just got back into the stream. Not sure if you're doing stock requests yet, but would love your thoughts on Rocket Lab. I talk about Rocket Lab a lot. I could pull it up real quick, and then I better go through here and look at other people's stocks. And then I'm probably going to bail because I'm going pretty long here. But let's see. RKLB. So Rocket Lab is trying to be SpaceX, and SpaceX produces 90% of the cargo for the Earth, and they're already at just a massive deficit of trying to catch up to that. And then you have other companies that are in this sector too. Now, the estimates are not great. It's not like they're going to be making a lot of money. The revenues are starting to go up, so they are getting revenue, which is good. It's better than a lot of these companies. But when you're losing 41 million in net income and making 106, you're not really doing that great. You got negative cash flow. Their backlog hasn't changed that much. They were burning down through cash. They've got some share dilution, not a ton, but their operating expenses aren't getting really under control. Maybe they've flattened out recently because you got more R&D, and the SG&A, I should say, at least to be fair, has flattened out since like 2021. But again, it's just like one of those things where we got people selling. Look at this. They're selling shares over the short term. They're not buying. Nobody in this company has been like, whoa, shit, this is really good. I should buy. And look at how much the short interest has increased here from like 8% to pushing 16, 17%. That is so much. I don't know. There's a lot of charts in here. Vehicles launched, backlog, all this, like some extra stuff that you don't see in other ones, right? And then the key charts over here. Let's see, revenue by segment, point in time, space systems. It's just such a hard industry to be in to turn profit. I just personally wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch it. I don't think the risk to reward is that good. If they do really great and they turn into a great company, awesome. They're already 2.6 billion. You could make some decent money, but I don't love Rocket Lab personally, dude. I really don't. All right, I don't know. I think I got almost everybody. I think I'm going to call it here, guys. We've been going hard. This is like 2 hours and 10 minutes. So I'm going to call it here. Thank you to the 200 people that are still here. Let's do it again. I'll shorten my intro next time. It'll probably only be 2.5 minutes, so it won't be so long. So you get a little bit of the tunes. You'll get one round through it, and then you'll get to see my little Cybertruck, which I love. Look at that little Cybertruck right there. Yeah, my wife is awesome. She's doing really great work and all this stuff. But I appreciate all you guys. I'm still thinking the markets look good. We do need to see follow through across the indices this week, I believe, to not start to get a little negative, though. So we should keep an eye out for that for sure. But otherwise, I think for a while here, I'm still in the buy the dip mode. So I think that's what we're going to play right here. We're going to do some buy the dip. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Again, probably a political video, maybe a Bitcoin mining video where I can recap some of the stuff. If not tomorrow, the next day for sure, because I want to produce some more content that provides value to people. And then I'll be in the market recap again at 3. So I will see you guys then. Thank you, everybody that contributed, did anything to support the channel. If you got time to, if you could throw a comment at the end, that would be great too. Thank you guys. Love you. make sure you hit the like before you leave, and ring the bell too and put it on so you get notified. Some people are saying they're not getting notified. Turn it off and on again. Sometimes I was kind of stagnant for several months, 2.5 months. They'll make it to where even though you have your bell on, they won't notify you. So do that. Anyway, love you guys. Take it easy. And for now, maybe buy that dip.
Lil Bubble, let me ride that rocket.
Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. Buy that fucking dip. Oh. Buy that fucking dip. Dump it on the top and spit. Buy that shit. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. When it drops, better cop. Let it fucking rip. People love the pump. Yeah. Got them lining up. Wow. See us winning, FOMO in and YOLO by the top. Dream of Lamborghini. Girlfriend in bikini. Front covered Forbes magazines where you'll see me. Oh, what? How? Price went down. Who will save us now? Felt like a hero. Now the fear is here and it's clear as steering to zero. Yeah. Hands weak, bags heavy, and I'm ready to forget about already all the hopes and the dreams. So puke your position like mom spaghetti. I'm hungry and got long cash on the ready to just buy that fucking dip. Yeah. Buy that fucking dip. Oh. Buy that fucking dip. Dump it on the top and spit. Buy that shit. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. When it drops, better cop. Let it fucking rip. When there's people crying, that's when I'll be buying. Yeah. When they tell you their investment conviction is dying. Oh no. But the market's dead. Yeah. That's what TV man said. It's time to sell it, walk away and sit in cash instead. Pump, what? Price go up. Guess that's just your luck. Sold at the bottom of ladder, you gotta learn how to hold on to whatever money you're gonna earn and not get shaken out when they run the stops. Although it tends to pretend through the dips and the bends, you know the trend is your friend all the way to the end. So I buy that fucking dip. Yeah. Buy that fucking dip. Oh. Buy that fucking dip. Dump it on the top and spit. Buy that shit. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. When it drops, better cop. Let it fucking rip. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. Buy that fucking dip. Oh. Buy that fucking dip. Dump it on the top and spit. Buy that shit. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. Buy that fucking dip. Yeah. When it drops, better cop. Let it fucking rip.